sad. That's the other problem. Yep. Exactly. Cool. Yep. I was so happy because that was my Mecha's Modern Mythology panel, and I always just kind of run videos like music AMVs while I'm setting up, just to sort of test out all the equipment and so forth. And I never like think about it. I just have a couple of dozen sitting on the hard drive. And so I was just flipping through and saying, what will I show? What should I show? Robotech set to Les Mis. Like, come on. This is perfect. Like, this is the audience for that. So, yep. Exactly. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Nice. It's great. There's the con moment. Exactly. It's true. Very true. Nice. Hello, everyone. Here we are. Hopefully. Maybe not. Hold on. It's not. 1 second. We're having an issue. We're having a classic issue. 1 second. Okay, we'll just have to try that. I will probably have to switch over. 1 sec.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Dun dun.
There we go. Gotta have the big old speakers on. You know, sometimes that's the way it is.
Aha.
There we are. Cool. It's not a Saturday without a technical difficulty. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. And
Hello.
So it's hello.
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 There we go.
Wham, 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 wham. Yeah. Anybody remembers that anymore, ever.
Exactly. So yes, we'll be talking about something in a moment. Just so you all know, later on tonight, I'll be doing a giveaway of the first 2 volumes of No Game, No Life,
Ooh,
the light
nice.
novels. So if anyone's interested in those, be aware, and I will let folks know later on. There are some posters in here involving some female characters bathing. And so, you know,
Wow.
if your parents happen to be around, you might not want to have those lying up on the ground. So just that kind of thing.
So you've been warned. If you get caught by your parents,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's on you.
Yeah.
Whoa! Shoot! What happened? Wow, that popped right
Uh-oh.
out.
Uh-oh.
It's a good thing that
Here, AMSR.
it's possible. Exactly. Yeah, illegal in Australia.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that
Yep.
stuff.
Okay, so we're here to talk about Perfect Blue, but actually before we do, I've been doing some reading this week, which turns out to be relevant to Perfect Blue, because I read this week, kind of somewhat unexpectedly, but kind of one of those things was like, oh yeah, I have those. I read 2 Satoshi Kon manga this week. So it turns out Satoshi Kon was a mangaka before he was an anime director.
Interesting.
He started work on a little manga you may have heard of called Akira.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was an assistant on that. And then afterwards, he made, among other things, Tropic of the Sea. This is a single self-contained volume, if you want to read it. The plot is very sort of traditional seinen, you know, there's a teenage boy in a small village and a legend, and it can't possibly be true, right? Oh, turns out, right, it's all that kind of stuff. The notable thing for this is that the schedule was so punishing, and he was spending so much time drawing manga and not leaving his house, and he got so exhausted that not only was he hospitalized afterwards, later in the experience of drawing the manga, he experienced Perfect Blue. He says this in the introduction to the manga and uses Perfect Blue in lowercase as though it's like a description of what happened to him. He lost connection between fantasy and reality.
I always wondered where that perfect blue came from.
Exactly.
Interesting.
I thought it was just a maniac fever dream.
We'll get to that in a little bit. And so, yeah, so if you're interested in Tropic of the Sea, again, it is kind of a very typical seinen story. But yeah, he had this. He didn't have a breakdown, but he had strange experiences of, is this what's actually happening? Am I repeating the same day over and over? All that kind of stuff. And then
Sounds like retail.
yeah, exactly. And then a few years later, he made a manga called Opus, and this is a Satoshi Kon manga. If you imagine a Satoshi Kon manga, that is exactly what this is. Basically, it is about a mangaka drawing a manga, one of whose characters refuses to accept being killed off in the manga, and so the mangaka is pulled into his own manga and experiences stories about that, and then he gets back into his real life, but then his manga characters start showing up in the real world. Yeah, it's every Satoshi Kon story, there it is, it's all there. And sadly, which I think is important to say, unfinished.
Yeah.
Because he got most of the way through the story, and then actually I believe the the magazine went under that he was publishing it under, but also Perfect Blue was spinning up, and all the production on pre-production on Perfect Blue, and it's like, I don't have time for this manga anymore. So you will get nearly to the end of the story, and it's going to kind of stop, just so you know. But it is definitely kind of the blueprint for a lot of the Satoshi Kon stuff that comes up.
You see, this is the kind of, and this is not to be like weird or anything, but like when Monty Ohm with RWBY, when he passed, when the creator of Kaze no Stigma, the Stigma of the Wind, when they passed, it's like you have a lot of the groundwork done, and it just would be really like, hopefully someone would be able, as a sort of an homage piece, be able to just kind of put some of the pieces together to just bring it to a close. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like the opera Turandot, where the maestro, where the maestro died about 3/4 of the way making it, and when it's performed, the last note is played. The conductor is traditionally supposed to stop, turn to the audience, and say, "This is when the master laid down his pen." They give it a moment of silence, and they turn around because somebody else picked it up and finished the opera.
Well,
but yeah, I would, I know myself, I would probably read this manga if I hadn't known, and I would have got to the end, and I would have been like,
please, somebody.
So
this is the problem: is that this published version actually includes an unfinished chapter that was discovered among Satoshi Kon's effects after he passed.
Oh,
yeah, which takes it in a whole nother level, I should point out. So this is the thing: is that he clearly had plans for this that no one can possibly understand. It's just very multi-layered. To give you a hint, in that final chapter, one of the characters is Satoshi Kon.
Wow!
Of course it is.
Okay.
So
it sounds like something. Oh God, I'm so frustrated because it sounds like something. Because I love his movies.
Yeah,
this is something I would seriously probably.
It's very much worth reading, especially knowing, because all of the themes are there, right, and all this stuff. So it's enjoyable watching him weave these threads together, just in and of themselves, and it's the comedy and the action and so forth. But we're here to talk about Perfect Blue, Satoshi Kon's first anime film. I know this is a film that I watched some time ago. It came out fairly early on in the anime world in terms of sort of popping up, and so I know I watched it back then. I think I've only watched it the one time. Obviously very impressed at the time, and haven't seen it since. What are your all's experiences with Perfect Blue?
Mine is it is the first Satoshi Kon movie that I've seen, and it made me fall in love with his work. Paprika, all that stuff. I have seen it many times, and I had the fortune of seeing it on the big screen, and I don't mean at a con, but at an actual movie theater.
Wow.
The Senator, which is a historic movie theater here in Baltimore. And so it was in a very nice big screen, like the actual curtains come back, and they have the movie. There's and I'm blanking on the name of the comic book store, but they host a anime night there, and this was literally right before COVID, so it was like one of the last 3 movies I saw before COVID hit. And it was just such a treat seeing this on a big screen. And let me tell you, folks, if you get the opportunity to see this on a big screen, you must. Even if you don't. Satoshi Kon can be hard. Okay, it can be hard. It can be hard, but the visual, his style, and everything, it's just worth the price of admission.
Especially Perfect Blue, which I think is probably his most intense film in that sense.
Yeah.
As you're saying that, Steve, the thought goes to my head like, "Wow, that must have been insane." Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much the rest of the crowd is like,
that's about right.
Yeah, I can imagine once it got to some of the later scenes where Mima is, showing herself off to her fans. It was like,
yes.
Wow.
We went there. Okay.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Yeah. John, how about you?
My. I can't remember what. I don't think it was Triad. It was one of the cons I went to that had a list of films you have to see.
Yeah.
Angel's Egg was in there. Yeah. Perfect Blue was in there. So got back, did usual thing, watching my weekly anime episodes here and there, and then it's like, okay, it's a Saturday or Sunday, and it was before we started doing this, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this. It's just like, who is Satoshi Kon and why is this a thing? So it was eye-opening, to say the least. And then I started watching Paprika, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
oh boy, maybe I'm not girded up enough to do this.
Yeah.
But it was quite a ride. I mean, Angel's Egg was in that loop as well, so it was like I saw all these films where I'm like,
I can just imagine at the end. I gotta
relax.
You're just like at the end of it, you're just like going, oh,
pretty much, because it was. I went down the list, and Angel's Egg was somewhere. It literally was alphabetical, so it's like Angel's Egg, and then Perfect Blue was somewhere down below. I don't even remember what was in between. All I know is watching these things, I'm like, I see why these are like things to watch. I get
Angel's Egg, End of Evangelion, Perfect Blue, perfect sort of
right.
It might have been the Evangelion.
Wow, okay.
Too. Because it was just films. It was all films. Didn't matter what the franchise, but it was just a film to itself. It was just like, oh boy.
You must have needed to see Kim of the White Lion afterwards, just to reset.
I would have loved to have had Yuru Camp and Yuri at the time. I think that would have been a really great way to decompress from this.
Exactly.
So this is now the second viewing of it, and jeez,
there's a lot.
Having watched it, going to watch it the second time was like, am I in a place to watch this now? I already know the whole thing, but it's just like, I have to be sort of like more critically minded versus just sitting in horror or in shocked awe.
Yeah.
Chugging a bottle of Xanax, going, I'll be okay.
And this is the thing.
I stopped at about 40 minutes. I went and had some rice. I grabbed a soda. Took a few minute break, and I'm like, okay, it's an hour and 23 minutes. I'm at the 40-minute mark. Let's get to this final stretch.
It's one of the interesting things about the movie, actually, is that it actually does support that surprisingly well. Like, there are a lot of other movies where if you take a break, you kind of lose the threads. Right. But because of how it's structured, it's really more about that visual, experience.
Yeah.
It should be pointed out, Perfect Blue is originally a novel. It is being adapted here for screen. It was originally going to be live action, and unfortunately I haven't been able to find the reference for this. But apparently it was originally going to be a live action film, but they couldn't get the money, and anime is so much cheaper than live action that they were like, let's just do it that way.
Yeah, the story I think was that they were going to do it. The set was destroyed by an earthquake.
Oh,
and so they didn't. So what they did is they said, for that reason, they said,
well, Millennium Actress makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, and so they went in, and the scene where they talk, where the show producers and showrunners are talking about, I wish we didn't have to make this. I wish we could have used the real club instead of using this. Is kind of a nod to that. And there is a live. I have not seen it, but there is a live action Perfect Blue out there.
Interesting.
Made in the 2000s.
Okay.
Now, where was this made in the 2000s?
Yeah, Japan. It was Japan.
And that's an important place to start, because this is in many ways a very Japanese movie. It's about the Japanese pop idol industry, all of that stuff, and it is. It's actually kind of funny because, when I first watched this, I mentioned this last time. You turn it on, I'm like, okay, Perfect Blue, I've heard is this weird movie, and it's Power Rangers. Right. They just throw that at you, and obviously it's the tokusatsu thing, right? But it's. What I think this is getting across so well is this sort of a disposable media sort of theme. That this tokusatsu are literally like no one, you have these actors in these costumes, no one knows who those actors are. They're just running around doing the thing, and it's just this formula that you're just churning out every day, every week, every month, every year.
And that beginning sequence is so important, actually, to the whole movie. But to that point, the very first time I saw it, I thought I made a mistake and walked into the wrong video room.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it starts off literally as the Power Ranger kind of thing, and you're just like one. What? Wait a minute. Where's the girl? I don't get it. You know.
Which
and then you see the scene as it unfolds, and it's these people there, and they're kind of like, even the kids are like, this is lame. Let's go see a movie.
Yeah.
And then you see the various different fandoms that are there, and where they cross connect, and the poor schlub who's like walking, who knows that this is the end of Mima's career in being a pop idol, and he's got the last of his magazine that he's probably been working on for the past 3 years because he's such a fan. And he's just
400 yen.
100 yen, last 4 copies, please buy it. I don't want this sadness anymore.
This was the first time I noticed the intellectually superior superfans. This trio.
Yeah.
Obviously, Steve Bloom's voice. Just so derisive.
It's perfect. It's just, oh, well, I know how all this works. And, oh, it's so obvious and all that. It's like, wow, I wonder if this is based on somebody. I'm wondering if, these people come up to them at lines all the time. They're like, okay, they're going in.
I was going to say, I took it as being, the amalgam of every super fan that has ever come up to somebody who was a mangaka or was, doing any kind of work. And it's just like, in scene 82JF, where you had like,
yep. Shut up.
I don't even remember that either.
Exactly.
Help me out.
But another thing.
You remember that dog that barked? Did you use a real dog, or did you use an actor making the voice of a dog? What are you talking about?
And that's when they go.
The house?
They're like, yes, security.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's like the old Saturday Night Live with Shatner.
Yeah.
You out of the house? You ever kiss a girl? What's going on? What's wrong with you people?
Well, this is another thing that is maybe not unique to this film, but definitely interesting about this film. There are people everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, just this movie is packed with other characters.
It's packed with other characters, and it's packed with audio. That's the other part of it.
Yeah.
Is that you need to, when you watch this movie for the first time, you're going to miss a lot because there's audio going on in the background. And I don't know if you guys catch it, but it's Mima's voice in the background as well.
Interesting.
That's going on in there. Okay. So if you listen carefully, you hear the current voices, and you hear this. The very cheerful Mima, coming up, bubbling up a little bit out of it.
Well, it's also for the crowd scenes. It's like there's a lot of generic crowd scenes that you get in a lot of films and a lot of anime, etc. But it's like this is packed with like very distinct mobile characters.
Yeah, right.
Like there was not an expense spared in trying to get the crowd doing things.
And that's one of the interesting things. Like we go back and we're watching this. People are going to excoriate me for saying this, but this film doesn't look that expensive. It clearly did not have a Ghibli budget, right? And I am not complaining. I'm saying that there's a lot of dialogue scenes in this movie where it's just characters standing there chatting. And even in the crowd scenes, and again, they're clearly pushing their budget to its limit of making these crowd scenes feel like crowd scenes. Like these are
you could have cheaped the crowd scene. It wasn't hard to do that, and yet they took the effort to try and make it more distinctive.
Yeah.
Okay, you could. You really just generic. You could have even blank faced a lot of the fans, to emphasize the sort of faithless fanaticism. But they made the effort to make them distinctly visual.
Yeah, exactly. It's also interesting because I think it's weird because you wouldn't need to show this whole concert in the opening sequence. Yeah. Japanese fans absolutely know what this is like, but going through the whole experience and showing everybody, doing all the dance moves in the crowd.
Right, the people with the cameras and doing the dancing in with the choreography of what they're doing on stage, and it's just kind of like this is where the point is like these are fans.
Yep,
these are huge fans of this pop idol group.
Absolutely. It should also. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
It should also be pointed out that the lyrics of these songs are also very important because the lyrics are, love me, I'm here for you always. It's like,
yeah. And some people take that a little too far.
And what I love about this movie, and again, one of those things you don't realize to go back and watch it, is how early they show you this guy. The creepy guy. It's like, oh, he's a problem. Like exactly the thing.
I couldn't initially when I saw the film and that first appeared. I'm like, what is this dude? Is he like listening to something? And then the camera angle. I'm like, oh wow. That's really super creepy. That's like a step up from like, I'm squishing your hand. Like, oh, can I get it? I have you in the palm of my hand. Like, oh God.
And it's very important for this whole sequence because of what happens. The fact that you have these punks, bust up the concert basically, or just cause a problem at the concert. Yeah. And he comes in to deal with that problem, and he gets very much hurt by that. And essentially, from his perspective, even after all of the fans, react and so forth, Mima responds by leaving.
Right.
After all he's done, his favorite person is now no longer going to be a singer. And so again, it's set up. It's wonderfully done.
There's that wonderful moment after he's stopping punches with his face, and the crowd does the thing. There's the throwing back and forth of the bottles and stuff, and she's trying to tell them this is it, this is over, and she wants one last good, goodbye, and then. Like Brent says, the dude is he's got her up on the pedestal, the whole 9 yards, and he's utterly crushed that this is happening, and and she smiles at him, or he thinks, looking at him, and giving him a smile, a thank you smile for like, hey, thank you for stopping from throwing a can at my head, and then then of course when she's walking out to the car and they're throwing letters and stuff at her and. She just sort of just walks right on past him, and he's just like, "But I'm your super fan. Your lyrics mean something to me." And you're just like, "Oh my God,
touch me!"
Yeah.
And mind you, I meant to look this up, and I apologize. When did Selena's manager or fan club president kill her?
That was.
Oh gosh.
Was that where in time and space? Did that crossover with this? Was that prior to this that Kon could have gotten some element about
the novel?
Right. I mean, that's what every time I see this, where it's like super crazy people who are like, "You're mine. I am all for you, and you are all for me. We're all together in this, and then you leave me. You can't do that." And it's just like,
right.
Yeah. And in fairness, I'm sure there have been innumerable examples of this in Japan.
1995, by the way, to answer your question.
Oh,
and this came out in 98. When did the book come out?
That's a good question. We have to look it up.
I was gonna say because that's every the first time I saw this, that was the first thing that came to my mind.
I didn't
like,
think
wow,
about
that, so the whole Selena thing was like super fan goes nuts.
Yep.
And watching this guy, I'm like. The first time I watched it, I'm like, "Oh, this is the like
it's that thing." Yep,
it's gonna do the thing, and I'm not gonna be happy about it.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is again just in a sense brilliant misdirection for the movie, but it's also I think important to the kinds of stories Kon makes. By the way, just in case anyone isn't clear, spoilers. Absolutely massive spoilers. Because it's not just him. Right. But Satoshi Kon is not. I mean, whenever anyone makes a movie like this, it's tempting to be very cute with it, to put in lots of layers and lots of sort of lots of red herrings. And Satoshi Kon isn't really doing that here. He is presenting something that is mysterious and that is strange, but it is going in a it's going in a direction. Right. He's telling a story about. Mental illness really. Which I should also point out, we are not mental health professionals. We're going to be using terms like crazy and insane and all that kind of stuff. All of these have specific meanings. We are using them colloquially here. If you are feeling feelings like this, please seek a qualified medical professional. Help is available. But point being, one of the things I love about this sequence too is little bits like the transitions, where you're cutting back and forth between Mima at the concert and Mima walking home.
Right.
And then she opens the door on her leaving from the concert. And it's almost obvious in the sense that she turns the key, and then we almost wait a few moments to watch all the characters come out to kind of prime us. It's there to say, hey, these weird transitions are going to start happening. Get used to it, basically.
Right.
Which, I think is just really smart storytelling. I also want to point out, by the way, again, Satoshi Kon nerds alert. Satoshi Kon made a commercial as part of a series, well, not really technically a commercial. A TV channel asked various anime creators to make essentially 30-second short films for them, and they aired them in commercial breaks. And he made one, it's called Good Morning, and it's about a woman waking up and so forth and so on. It's actually the last thing he made before he passed. I think it's Mima's bedroom. It's laid out exactly the same way as Mima's bedroom.
Mima's room?
Yeah, Mima's room. Exactly. Speaking of which, it should be pointed out how weird it is going back to a time where Mima does not know what the internet is.
Yeah.
I love that. Even when you see it for the first time, way back when I saw it for the first time, way back when, I was just like, I don't know what the internet is. What's going on here?
Well, if she then goes and buys a Mac Pro Forma, and it
very
says
specific
Mac Pro Forma, I'm like,
see if you can find
okay, Apple dropped some
and
money on this one.
Yep.
And they actually have the Netscape. I had
yes,
the Netscape on there.
That's the
I
thing.
like that icon. I'm like, oh crap!
Like they are. There it is. It is a Macintosh Performa. And I checked the credits. Like they're not listed as a production partner.
But they had. I mean, the logos on it, everything. It's got.
I'm sure somebody did something there. And Apple famously does not do that, right?
Right.
That's not something they just blindly do. But yeah, it is pretty funny. But it is also a thing, right? Like, lots of people in the mid '90s, they may have heard that the internet exists, but they don't really know how it works or how you do all that kind of stuff. Which again sort of adds to the cognitive dissonance, right? That you're now in this completely new environment trying to understand how all this works. And again,
she's like, what is this? Oh, it's a link.
Yeah.
What is this? And you have to explain it. She actually explains it, and then she turns around, oh, can you just explain it to me again in English? And you're just like,
yeah. Yep. And then you get this very 90s website. Which I just love it. And again, this wonderful
basically
sequence.
just a BBS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Where,
I should say that for the people out in Chatland who haven't seen the movie, when you watch the movie, obviously there's an English dub to it, but put the subtitles on because it tells you the meme when they bring up the Mima's room, the chat room, all that stuff is important. There's so much, and that's one of the things about Satoshi Kon is nothing's in there just to be in there, just for the sake of it.
It's not accidental.
Everything's there for a reason.
Yep.
So that thing is you want to be able to read it and know what is being said.
Speaking of which, I just noticed here that the URL is I think angelnet.org.jp, which I believe was one of the early GeoCities style sites where anyone can create a website, which connects. Of course, it's some random person creating a website for Mima.
Wow.
I used to have a GeoCities site.
Yeah, I had a GeoCities.
Mine was the Ticket Monkey review.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
What brilliant thing, because probably folks watching Perfect Blue are aware of these things, right? You have Otaku watching this, and so they're going ha 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 ha, yeah, and then she starts reading about herself. and you realize, wait, she doesn't. How does she not know?
Oh yeah.
How is there a website of her, by her, if she's never had a computer before and doesn't know how to use the internet?
Mm-hmm.
Oh!
And then she's getting through it, and she's like having fun at first, and then she's reading out loud like the very particular things that she does.
Mm-hmm.
And she likes to buy milk and blah blah blah. She's like,
and it takes her that long to figure it out. Meanwhile, you're like sitting there watching a screen, screaming, going, "Oh my God, call the police!"
And again, good filmmaking. We've seen all of this before, right? We saw her buy that brand of milk. So everything ties together. And to your point about art, like, it is very difficult to draw somebody feeling vague unease.
yeah.
You know, just this whole process of her emotionally and showing how that is affecting her is just so well done.
Yeah.
And of course, you have the imagery of, you know, her reflection in the mirror, in the screen, all that kind of stuff going on. And yeah, it's just really, really creepy.
Nothing about this movie is not.
This is true.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is kind of creep central. Satoshi Kon. So yeah, and then we start getting some of this overlay with the drama and what's going on with that storyline. And again, this is one of those things that I think is just brilliantly done, is having this other layer of the drama that she's part of, which is also kind of mirroring her life.
Yeah.
But then that being a whole, the drama is kind of the drama in her life. Literally, right. It is the thing causing her angst.
Yeah, so she starts out as a bit part,
mm-hmm.
getting her feet into this new thing, mm-hmm. and then it's all downhill from there.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed that the show is called Double Bind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So for those who don't know, that's a psychiatric term, and it actually has to do with what's going on with Mimo.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so it's a multiple personality disorder type of thing.
Captain Laser Eyes in the chat room. I had a similar reaction when she was reading through the website. I thought the stalker was there, or was like right outside the room or something. Like I was convinced we were going to see it.
It was going to happen right then.
Right.
You know? I thought there was a camera in there. I thought somehow somebody put a camera in there and was getting a feed off of her.
Which is exactly why I think Satoshi Kon does that. And again, it's a very cinematographic technique, where we see her from a remove, as though we are looking through a telephoto lens.
Yeah, and she turns and looks at the window, and she's like,
Not
because in those days, a security camera would have been as toaster, been a little hard to let the whirring, beeping thing above you. What the hell's that?
Ignore me.
Exactly.
Funny, I didn't put a giant television camera in here. Where'd that come from?
So as she's looking out the window, and this is something you get after a couple watches, and that for her in her room, and this is where you realize later on when she's not in her room but in her room, how far the train is away.
Yeah.
Satoshi Kon makes it a point of saying this is how far the train is from her vantage point. But as she's looking out the window and it draws back, like you're talking about the telephoto lens, it's on the other side of the track, right? Well, where does Rumi live? On the other side of that train.
Yep.
So, it
on the
very well could be on the crazy side of the track.
Yep. And by the way, full props for the smash cut to the giant-eyed anime girl in the middle of this sequence, where it's like, oh yes, this is the... And again, this is, I think, Satoshi Kon very much working with his medium here, saying, remember, guys, this is anime. Like, you are watching an anime film, but it looks like this. It doesn't look like that red-haired girl.
Yeah. It's these guys. Like, much less colorful.
Much less colorful, much more weird, and to the point where we have our otaku again. And it starts to get real. In that very fundamental sense. And
real weird.
Real weird.
Real quick.
And you start getting those bits of, again, sort of real life. The fact that she hurries past all of these fans who are waiting for her, and they're like, boy, did all this stuff make her kind of arrogant and stuck up.
Yeah. Now that she's an actress, she has no time for us.
Exactly. It's like she's going through some shit. And again, here's where you start getting even more of that, where he clearly left that little newspaper article for her to see.
Yeah,
I know. And as the door's closing, and she sees him smiling, like, "Oh, see, I'm still protecting you." Mm-hmm. And if I had been Mima and I saw that and I saw the note, I would be just a huddled, crying mass in the corner of the elevator.
Exactly. Well, I was surprised they didn't. He didn't hype it up where the doors are closing, and she, and like you'd expect her to be like hammering the door close button, but instead it's just that kind of like creeping recognition of like, there's that article, and there's him.
Yep.
Well, wait a minute.
And this is the other thing. Idols have been trained to understand that their fan base is peculiar.
Yeah. I guess.
Right. Like they've dealt with difficult people before, right? So it's one of those things where, again, you have that thing of, okay, clearly this has crossed a line, but has it crossed enough of a line? Like, how much do I know? How much can I prove?
Right. Well, actually, they addressed that with the manager, the head of the talent agency, who's saying, "No, we're not going to deal with the police. This is just another whatever. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It's fine. I'm fine. You're fine. Mm-hmm. It's all good." Except for the kid that got run over by the truck, and the fact that she's seeing a website of her and she has no idea what the heck's going on, and Mr. And that's the other thing about this guy, security guard. Mm-hmm. There is no mistaking who he is. He's not a face in a crowd. He's not a face in a crowd. He's tall. He's tall, very tall for a Japanese.
Gaunt.
Gaunt, and whatever it was that happened in his life.
Mm-hmm. The very wide eyes.
Very wide eyes. And just the messed up face and everything. So it's he's not just a someone who can just blend back into the crowd. So that's another point to Satoshi Kon, where he's just like, so when he does disappear, and she's just like, wait a minute, and she's really confused because this is not something you confuse. Like this guy is very distinctive. So and then to suddenly not see him, that's when you start going, all right, cut back on the malt liquor.
And this is the point at which the movie takes a further turn, because it starts becoming about what Mima is willing to put up with for her career.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I wrote down here, the nightclub scene.
One of the best uncomfortable scenes you'll ever watch. I mean, it's brilliant in that it makes you feel, you the viewer, nobody wants to feel that uncomfortable, but you feel uncomfortable and you watch this, and you're supposed to feel uncomfortable watching.
Exactly.
And
and to be clear, I can't show this scene on YouTube.
Right. You can't.
Because so for those not familiar with the movie, she's playing a scene in which her character is assaulted. And what's so brilliant about this scene, because a lot of other directors have made movies about characters going through terrible experiences, and they sensationalize it. Or they sort of rush past it. And instead, we not only sit with it, it becomes kind of weirdly mundane. One of my favorite moments in cinema is when they're in the middle of all this, somebody yells "cut."
Cut, yeah.
And they're this guy's lying on top of her as they're moving the cameras around, and he goes, "I'm so sorry." And she goes, "No, it's okay, I understand." And then, action. Everyone's freaking out.
It's just like all the horror of it all. And you're just like, at first you're just like, oh, the guy's being nice. He's like, I'm really sorry about this. I know this is uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. Okay, 3, 2, 1, action. Rapey. And it's like, oh my god.
And one of the things I love about the scene is it throws So again, how does somebody get to a point where they're disassociating fantasy and reality? Stuff like this. This would absolutely mess with your mind because you're going through something that is very traumatic, but it's not traumatic, but it is. Right. But, and all of these weird things are moving around in your head.
Well, when she's looking up at basically the disco ball, and it's kind of like, woo, woo, kind of going a little wacky. And it's like, okay.
Uh-huh.
And that's like her basically just going, we're just going to
zone out.
We're not going to think about it.
Disconnect.
Exactly. Yep. Uh-huh. We're just not thinking about it. And again, I love, we after that, we smash cut back to her in this quiet dressing room, just alone. Having gone through all that, like there's no, oh, are you okay? Just go home.
Yeah. Scene's done. Get out.
Pretty much.
So just to give people some context about this part of the industry, when you're talking about scenes like this and things physical, especially like on stage in theater, and you probably heard some terms about this intimacy coaches nowadays, and the reason why they exist now is because of those things. Is because it when you're doing a scene like that, and you're doing it repetitively, okay, so right. For those of you who know, I used to work in theater, not an actor, but my office was right across from the stage, so I got to see various plays with a rape scene, and it would happen over and over and over for like an hour to get what they wanted out of that. But you need an intimacy coach there to not only to make sure that you're not going too far, the director's not going too far, and the actors aren't going too far, but they're there also to kind of help guide the actors through what it is that's uncomfortable about it and make them think. Now, back in the 90s, this did not exist. This was not a thing. So when Mima's doing this scene, as Brett was pointing out, she really is alone, and there really is nobody there to go, it was just a scene, you did good, and her manager actually really did try, in the movie.
True. Yes.
He just didn't know how.
Right.
He just didn't really know how to properly do it. He felt uncomfortable. Rumi left the room in tears, and that was the best that they could do at that time. So this really is traumatic.
Well, it also seemed the manager he's coping with something that is seemed like a little out of his league.
Right. Yeah.
So he's got an idol who's that he knows the next stage for the career is going to be moving into acting, but it doesn't seem like he's done this in a way where it's like, okay, we just do
here's the pattern, right?
Done.
This is the path that we follow.
Right. So it's like he's kind of feeling his way along to try and figure this out similarly.
Exactly. And you have the problem that Mima is also trying not to cause a scene, so to speak. Right. She's not sitting there going, "Oh, please help me. Please help me deal through this stuff." She's going, "Well, the boy, that was rough, but I'm okay." So of course he's gonna not throw lots of advice her way. So yeah, it's really rough. Whereupon Mima comes home to find her fish are dead. And again, it's great writing because the first thing she says when she sees those fish initially is, "Oh, I forgot to feed you yesterday." Yep. So did she just forget? Or did somebody sneak into her house and kill these fish? Or, again, legitimately...
Ooh, I hadn't thought of that part.
Yeah. And that was my thought, is the fish are dead. Oh, he killed the fish. He's sending a message.
Or she's so disconnected.
I hate fish.
Reach there. Or is she so disconnected because that's...
and that was what I got from that.
Yeah.
But, that the fish had actually been fed in probably... days.
A while.
Yeah. Because they're not even floating to the top at this point. They're
they're at the
bottom.
Yeah. And of course, dead inside. So she's dealing with all of this crud, and here's where Idol Mima first really appears. And what's great about it is that what's interesting about it, is that, so what I got out of the film is that this is very much Mima working through her problems. right? It's her kind of talking to herself of, this is who I was, this is who I am now, am I comfortable with this? Clearly not.
No.
But it's interesting because you do see this version of Mima that is so self-composed, so confident, who knows who she wants to be. And I think that is also kind of the clue that you're dealing with like a better word, psychosis. That other version of her is all set, all taken care of, doesn't have any of the nervousness that the real Mima had when she was an idol in that first scene.
Right.
Well, think to the phone call with her mother.
Mm-hmm.
Where the mother's like, but you liked singing, you wanted to do singing, this is what you wanted to do. And she's like, oh, that's not, no, I'm moving on, doing something else. And it's just like, so she's coping with this sort of internal adjustment to switch out of idol into a different career path, and yet her fans are trying to reinforce her prior iteration. Her mother, her parents, presumably, mother and or other, is also reinforcing that prior iteration of Mima, and she's the only one that's like, the talent coach isn't really, he's not a talent coach. Her talent agent guy doesn't really sort of know what to do. Right. Rumi is kind of like, are you sure?
Yeah.
So everybody's pushing back, and she's the one trying to claw her way out of idolhood and into being a serious actress.
Yep.
I mean, it's a great scene when they're talking. The three of them are there, and at first you really don't know that Mima's in the room. And it's just the two of them talking. It's Rumi and around her. Yeah, and they're just, and she's just, and the way she's sitting there is just like as a lost little child, like, help me find my mommy, kind of look to her, and they're just talking around it, and then finally Rumi says, well, Mima, what do you think? And then she defaults to the correct answer, which is, no, I'm fine. This is what I've chosen. It's going to be hard, but this is what I want to do. Da, 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 da. And then, after she does the horrible rape scene, she gets home, finds the fish are dead, and she just lets it all out. And she's just like, no, of course I'm not okay. Of course I didn't want to do this. Of course I don't want to do that. But this is, what do I do? Where do I go? No guidance. No, nothing there.
Yep.
And all the weirdness that's happening, and creepy people around her that she's not really able to. And the mail bomb.
Yeah.
Right? The mail bomb. And, all that stuff. Stress. And she just, and that's where the psychosis kind of comes in. And she starts seeing idol Mima. And one of the best parts of this movie is that I love is that you will never, ever, ever know until the end. Was she seeing her own psychosis? Was this her own psychosis? Or was it, spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear this, plug your ears, or was it Rumi? Where she was actually seeing Rumi.
Yeah.
As herself.
Yeah. Well, and this is another interesting thing is that we don't quite see it yet. So she's starting to figure out what's going on here. And so exactly Rumi shows up. Whereupon we get one of the scenes that I think is burned into everyone's memory of this film. When Idol Mima leaps out and then just hops from lamppost to lamppost. Exactly.
Did any of you?
And that's full on psychosis. That's not Rumi.
Right.
Yeah, it's not Rumi. No.
Yeah.
But did you get like singing in the rain at all when you saw that?
Not this time, but yeah.
That's what I got in my head and I'm just like going, okay, this wasn't creepy enough. I've my head down singing in the rain as psychosis.
Just hopping along.
I'm like going. And of course, that's when you definitely need to stop drinking when you doing that.
Absolutely. And then
no, Mima, you cannot fly.
Right. Which is then followed up by again a perfect scene of the parking lot in the elevator.
Yeah.
Because we vaguely remember who this guy is. He's the writer of the drama, and he's just kind of doing his thing. And we've watched horror movies, like we know where this is going, but it is just so wonderfully paced of all of these things happening one after the other. Him seeing the bloody sign, him walking along, and hearing the music.
Yeah.
You know.
And then the elevator's doors open, and then I love what they did with the audio, which was to distort it just because the thing was just at full blast.
Yeah.
The little box was at full blast, and he's just like, now, personally myself, if I saw the bloody stuff on my parking space, I would get back in the car and leave. But even if I said, okay, whatever, and I went to the elevator and the elevator door opened and all there is this music box playing a CD at full pulsing volume, at that point I would have been like, nope, going home.
Well, the first time I saw it, I was ready. Like, when the elevator comes, I'm like, jump scare.
Exactly.
Right now, it's going to happen.
Right.
And then it opens up, I'm like, oh, okay.
And
so this maybe just is a psychological thing. It's like freaking the dude out. Like,
right. And then the elevator door opens again, which
upstairs. Yeah.
Which again I'm not going to show you because YouTube. And we find out that he's not going to write anymore.
No.
Oh.
You got chunked.
You got chunked, and again, expectations set up, expectations subverted, and then you just see the door open, and it's this very mundane thing, this very simple moment. There's nothing else going on. There's just the body with the eyes.
He
just
certainly
the body,
didn't.
no eyes. Stabbed
He
63 times.
He didn't see that coming.
Which
honestly, I don't joke. When I saw him, that is exactly what I thought. It's like he sees the little radio thing, and then he's particularly blinded by that. You know, that was his murder. I'm like, he didn't see this coming, and I'm wondering if that was.
I think you're absolutely right.
Thing. Like,
totally.
God.
Because it should be pointed out, Mima hasn't even done the photo shoot yet.
Right.
This is just reaction to the.
God, there's so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you believe how much there is in this 80-minute movie?
I know, it's kind of crazy. And then we get the photo shoot, and again, very much sort of, I would say Japanese, particularly industry, of where you go do the photo shoot, and then the photo shoot gets racy. Because something that especially the Japanese industry has been dealing with a long time is that there is this nasty undercurrent of stuff out there that can damage you, and it's not illegal. You agreed to do it. You went through it, but it does send a message.
Well, and I think for her, when people are talking about that he can be a racy photographer, it's like you get. Even though the way that Mima presents herself in the photo shoot and the way that she's responding to direction in the photo shoot, at least I got that sense. You could feel the increasing discomfort in her, and that it's like you can't hear it, but you can hear it in your own head where it's, I'm doing this because I have to do this to be an actress. These are the things I have to do. And it's like, I think that's a brilliant piece because there is no dialogue that says that. She's not saying this to anyone. She is not internally saying that where you're hearing this sort of monologue in her head. You already know, and you're the one dialoguing in your head of what's going on with her. It's just like,
and all you're seeing,
smart.
And all you're seeing is her acquiescing in the picture. So they just show the snapshots of her smiling, doing the provocative poses, and doing what she's to do. And then with the audio of people talking about it and her former bandmates talking about it. And boy, no love lost there, right?
Yep. Which again adds to the pressure. They're doing great. She's not. It's also, it should be pointed out, right? Like, there is an element of that resignation then communicates in the photographs, right? Of the submissiveness, right? That's certainly something that a photographer might want in those sorts of photographs, So
right.
This stuff is kind of problematic. And then I love, and again, I'm not going to show it, but the next thing you see is her in the bath, just kind of
So that has influenced. I'm trying to think of the movie.
The Shining.
No, Requiem for a Dream.
Oh,
Requiem in a Dream. They actually got the rights to do that scene.
Oh, that's right.
In the movie where Jennifer Connelly, I think is the actress's name, where she does that same thing where she is in the bathtub and she does that bathtub scene. So that's an actual. They actually went to Satoshi Kon and Aronofsky. I didn't say his name right. Dan Aronofsky. A tongue tied. But he's the one who directed the movie. He and Satoshi Kon actually talked, and Satoshi Kon said, "Yeah, please, by all means." And so they included that part into the picture.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. And by the way, if you want to watch a dark, cynical movie about drug abuse, Requiem for a Dream, there you go.
Nice.
Feel good hit of the summer. And that is and this is where
perfect date film.
Exactly. Whereupon we meet the stalker for the first time in his natural environment, his mother's basement. Yeah. Covered with people, and it should be pointed out, and this is something that I did not get for watching the movie. This is not unusual among super fans of idols and anime fans and so forth. This was absolutely a thing. Oh wow! When did the Tsutomu Miyazaki murders happen? Was it after the Tsutomu Miyazaki stuff?
No idea.
That's worth connecting the dots with, because when they opened up his room, it looked like this, right? So I don't know. But point being, and here you see Idol Mima with him. Now here's my question to the two of you. Is this Rumi?
This is the part that's kind of hard, because one thing he says to her later on, to the real Mima, he says, but the real Mima emails me every day and tells me everything. So at first you're like, okay, so that was his own psychosis, a folie à deux type of thing going on.
Yeah.
And if you notice that their moment in that scene, the posters also talk.
Yeah, they're
talking. Talking to him as well.
Yep.
But it's very intimate the way that she puts her arm around him and stuff like that. So you have to think.
Yeah, I think
is it really? I think it's psychosis, but you really could say might be Rumi, because Rumi. Because what is Rumi that we haven't said yet? What is Rumi? Not just a talent coach, but what was she was previously? She was a formal idol. So
But I thought this was his psychosis, because the way that Mima is presented in all those posters is idealized, vaguely sexualized, but his emphasis, he has all the magazines where her photos appear, but his emphasis is on her purity.
Right.
True. Yeah.
Rumi does not look at anything like Mima. So he's not going. He is divorced from reality, but he is not blind to reality. So that his idealized Mima is there with him.
Yeah. It would not
his innocent
overlap with
Right. If Rumi showed up, I have no doubt it would be like, you're impure. You're not the real one. And it's like you would have that segue to violence on that side.
You're absolutely right.
This is his psychosis of the pure and absolute Mima as she is supposed to be.
Yeah,
that totally makes sense. And boy, is that psychosis.
That makes sense in a crazy psychotic.
Exactly.
There you go.
And here's where you start getting the time loop.
Wow.
Jeez.
This is
talk about being thrown. Talk about being thrown for the first time when you watched it and you have no context and you watch this and you're just like, how many more times are we going to do this?
How many times is it real?
Right.
Well, that's
after it loops like twice, you're just kind of like, okay,
I lost track.
Real? Did it start out real at some point and I missed where it went?
Yeah.
Totally off the rails?
Exactly. I should also point out, we also get another Mima skipping through the halls, and this is where it really connected with me, the budget of the movie, because, oh my gosh, do they spend coin on this sequence. Mima's floating through the hall. We even get a sequence where the camera is like tracking with Mima, I'll see if I can find it here.
Well, I love she dances around people, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean, her fluidity of movement.
And
it's beautiful.
And when the fever dream or whatever you want to call it, the psychosis is moving through the crowd of umbrellas.
Yeah,
she disappears from umbrella to umbrella, so it's not like they make it very clear that she's moving in between things and nobody's noticing, and the real Mima is knocking crap over and running into people, and the fake one just kind of just in and out, in and out, in and out, and then finally it's just
just gone. And again, the attention in getting deep into animation stuff here, like there's Mima interacts with her environment a lot, which remember the cell is not in an actual environment. Like you have to synchronize where that wall is versus where the cell is to have her bounce off it and have her connect into things. So this is a technically very challenging sequence beyond everything else, and it's just amazingly done. Shadows as well. But yeah, it's a wonderful moment, and it's also an important moment because this is the first time I think where we see Mima really have a dissociative moment in public.
Yeah,
right.
You know, it's no longer just her having trouble with things; she's just breaking down.
Yeah, I mean, she demolishes the lady that has like the VHS cassette in the hall. It's just totally wrecked. It keeps on rolling.
Exactly.
I saw that. I was like, "Play for the Ravens! Play for the Ravens!"
And then Truck Coon shows up.
Oh, God, yeah.
Truck Coon.
Exactly.
One of the earliest appearances of Truck Coon. He was a very young Nissan at that point.
Nissan. Yeah, very nice. And Rumi shows up. Great. I also want to
understatement of the year.
Oh, she's helpful.
I don't know what the age difference is, but both Rumi and Creepy Stalker Guy both have very wide set eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that her son?
Ew. On so many levels.
I don't know.
God.
But I just, watching it, I realized this time, I was like, oh, they do look kind of similar a little bit.
Well, I always got I got the sense from him that it was more of a malformation than
possibly.
I like if you pulled his hair up and he looked at you and Rumi looks at you, that you'd be like, oh look, mother and son. You're like,
I don't know.
It is interesting though. I always that made me curious the first time I watched it. I was like, why has Rumi got eyes like on the other side of her face? Like what's going on, like a fish thing?
Yeah. And Kon very deliberately made the characters not all look like pretty anime characters.
Yeah,
right.
There's a very wide body dimorphism and such in this movie.
Oh, the club violation scene, all those faces of those guys, like wow.
Yeah, she's playing around with that, and it should be pointed out that there are plenty of people in real life with wide set eyes, right? Like that is the thing that happens.
Right.
But yeah, so we get our wonderful time loop here, and then things start getting worse and worse. Now I should point out, I keep showing things.
Hey.
Yeah, exactly. So we have this is the point at which I kind of can't show a lot of things because we get the scene where the director is being killed.
Right.
And this confuses a lot of people because we see Mima doing it. I believe what we're seeing things in a couple different levels here. I think that Mima is imagining herself doing it. Mima did not actually do that, but given all the things she's been through, there's some part of her mind that kind of wishes this hadn't happened, and so she's in her mind.
You mean the photographer?
The photographer. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. Photographer.
Yeah. When the photographer's being killed, because there's all the imagery, obviously, of what she went through, and so I think, personally, what I think happened is that she heard about this happening, but then still has the psychosis. So at some point during her, dealing with that, she then imagines herself doing it, and then comes back to reality, didn't realize it happens, find out it happened, assume that she was the one who did it, right?
Right.
Because I don't, because the Mima we see doing that is not idol Mima. It's clearly Mima. But I think it's just her fantasizing, basically. Again, understandably.
Well, I mean, it's again this push to go back to being an idol. Mm-hmm. So you eliminate a person and an experience that would have kept you being an actress.
Yeah.
You had not had that experience, and that person had not done that. Mm-hmm. There could still be a path back to idol, but that person represents a significant block to that.
And it should be pointed out, there are very, very, very strong beliefs around idol purity.
Yes.
Idols cannot have boyfriends. Idols cannot do they cannot date. They can't do any of these sorts of things. They have to maintain this image. So,
which is what Me-Mania, the guy with the eyes, that's all he's about. Is pure, not you're filthy. If you're not you, then you're filth.
And there's been a lot of controversy. I mean, there was controversy when Aya Hirano, an anime voice actress, announced that she had a boyfriend. Like, that was considered not something that you do. So the fact that Mima has gone through this stuff means she can never be a pop idol again. Like, it is very, very firm. Yeah. And again, what kind of Satoshi Kon is highlighting here are these weird double standards and expectations around people that are kind of not reasonable. And then we build up to the climax.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. So we build up to the climax, which again I can't show lots of, because here's where we find out what's actually going on. And one of the things I love about this sequence is she gets assaulted by creepy stalker guy.
Me-Mania.
Me-Mania.
Is it Me-Mania? Yeah, it's
Me-Mania.
And I love how simple his death is. She brains him, and he just kind of stands up and then just slumps over.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not where he dies.
That's the precursor to his death.
Yeah, no. It has an amazingly thick skull because there's that great scene where she chunks him, and he's just like stunned look on his face, and then he just like, and he gets up and falls over, and whatever you think he's dead.
Yeah.
What it is that he recovered and he was looking for her.
Yeah.
So then when he came out, this is what when you read about the scene where you find the two bodies of her manager and him, the manager fought him, and they both died.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they both died.
Gotcha. Okay.
And or they were in the middle of fighting, and Ruby was able to deliver the.
That was kind of what I thought was going to happen because the injuries are consistent with the photographer.
Yeah.
That even though Mima whacked him in the face, you don't know necessarily because he doesn't spew blood at that point. And yet when you see the manager and him, he very definitely has an eye gouged out. And it's just like, who gouges eyes out? Really?
And she made a choice of weapon. Remember that when she's groping, when he's setting up the
could have been a screwdriver.
It could have been the screwdriver in the eye. It was instead of a hammer to the side of the face.
Yeah.
You're right. And here's where we discover what's going on. And again, very smart filmmaking here, because she wakes up in this house, and he fooled me again. Because I saw this, and some part of my brain was like, oh, she's back in her room. This doesn't quite look like it. Maybe she's redecorated. I don't know.
Or a time loop. I got worried it was a time loop.
Exactly.
I saw it, I'm like, oh, God, not the back to the beginning. It's like, I can't do this again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did you notice that this is the level of detail in the animation? When she looks up and she discovers that it's not her room, she's looking at the poster that she had taken down. What is not in the right-hand corner of the poster?
Oh, I don't remember.
In the beginning of the movie, when she's taking it down, she's taking it down. There's a small Polaroid in the lower right-hand corner.
Oh, right.
It's not there because Rumi doesn't have it, but Rumi can get the poster.
Yep.
Interesting.
Nice.
I didn't even notice that. Interesting.
There we go. Which leads to the climax,
right?
Where you get again just this gorgeous sequence.
God, it's gorgeous, but it's creepy as all.
Oh, and ties back to that earlier thing where people, crowds everywhere, and now suddenly everyone's gone.
Gone. Yeah.
Yep.
And you have to wonder again, are they really? Is she just mentally calling out, but just not seeing anyone there? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I did find it very interesting. Back to the purity of Rumi's concept of Mima.
Mm-hmm.
Notice how Rumi changes the costume.
Yep.
And it's
from white to red.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She has bastardized her own pure image of Mima and has done something different with it. And now you see how deep her twisted concept of things are. She's not just imitating Mima anymore.
Yeah.
She's now some kind of odd amalgam of the things that Rumi thinks Mima should be beyond just what she was. This is like, that's getting crazy.
Let me ask you guys a question. Because this is something that I've gone back and forth for years. I've never settled in on it. Cam is the duo now, right?
Right.
And they're
Ray
doing
and
that,
Yukiko.
right? And they're doing a show on that rooftop, right? They're doing a performance, right? As they're doing the performance, creepy stalker guy Mimania is there. And he's watching them, and you see him idealizing Mima being there in the middle.
Yes.
Did you notice that the two of them, and I cannot for the life of me, okay, so the two of them are looking inward to where Mima would be, and they have horrified expressions on their face.
Yeah, they do.
Now, this is where I go, because Mima's supposed to be in the bathroom, right? Having her breakdown, right? Did Ruby show up as Mima? Because when you look at the crowd, they have this expression. They have this expression of just like, what the heck is this? And then they break into the song that's their song, the three of them, and the crowd goes wild.
Wow.
And then you see Mima supposedly jumping off the stage, and the two of them, the now duo, are just like kind of looking like, "What the hell was that?" And so, for the life of me, I honestly don't know if that was Rumi or if that was Mima actually coming out.
Well, for them to react, it had to have been Rumi. Because if it had been Mima that had gone up there, it wouldn't have been horror. It would have been a look of, like, confusion, like, why are you here? What's going on? Versus if Rumi showed up, they know what she looks like, and her imitating Mima would be like, oh, wow, this is a bucket full of nuts I don't want to be any part of.
Yeah.
Wow. See, I just thought that was all his delusion.
Right.
And it's like that somehow their reactions, I just totally missed that out because I was trying to figure out what Mima was doing. And so, damn, Steve, you've watched this quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Absolutely. Again, I wish you could find that image without something about nudity.
Yeah.
But yeah, at which point again we get one of these in Truck Coon shows up again.
Yeah.
And we get this, but we get this final moment of her psychosis of without the hair, she's not Mima.
Yeah.
And she just completely breaks down until she can get the hair back on. And
enough to even lean into a
shard of glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, oof. I'm just like, wow.
But leading up to that moment, the point again, another point of the animation of this movie.
Yeah.
Where they show, the creepy of her gliding, and just effortlessly like a balloon and just hopping. And then you see the mirror image of the reality.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It's just that pure ugly, just like hate you. You're just like
that conveys such a terrible thing. Oh, it's like
see if I can. Yeah, there he goes. Yeah, it's just it's
yeah,
amazing.
That. Oh.
A Truckun is thwarted in the end.
True. But and again, this goes into so many different layers of our expectations of what a person should be, of this sort of very manufactured image of the idol, and the fact that reality is not the same as what you're seeing there.
So I can't remember the thing I had seen, and it's been literally like 20 years ago. It was an interview with an actor, and just addressing the kind of things where people who were fans, not super fans, and it was an American actor, and I don't remember who was interviewing them, but they were saying, like, you know, they love their fandom, they love people coming up and talking to them, and it's just it's so funny how people walk up and just instantly think they know you, and know things about you because you play favorite character.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, you know, you were great, and like, you know, do you ever talk to such and such and such? It's like, they were just an actor. They know the people that they acted with. They might be friends, but that's not who they are. You know, they don't actually pilot a helicopter. They don't, you know, drive a speedboat. This is not a thing that they do. This is what they do as an actor. And it's just like, here's Rumi, where it's like, Mima's a person. Mima's got obviously a lot of crap on her plate. A lot of crap on her plate. And it's like, wow, you busted your own brains because she broke out of that box. It's like, oh.
And you think about how many people stay in the box.
Yeah.
How many folks are just pushed into that thing. You will do the thing, and we're talking about what's the pattern, right? And a lot of people follow that pattern of, okay, here's how to dissociate yourself from that, is you do this, you know, nude photo spread or whatever, and that's going to make it a thing, and then you do this thing, and then when that doesn't work out, heads roll, so to speak. Which then leads up to our conclusion, which shocked me when I first saw it, because I expected an Inception ending. I was waiting for Satoshi Kon to be cute, to be like, you know, it was all a dream, or was it?
Right.
But no, this is not what Satoshi Kon does. Satoshi Kon is not interested in being confusing. He's not interested in doing this. He's exploring essentially mental illness. But the point of this is that person was off their rocker. This person was not. And this person moved on and dealt with that and is now has their life and is going on with their life. And it should be noted, Rumi's still seeing Mima.
Yep.
You know, that
herself as
like, yeah, that has not healed. Although
not her invisible friend.
Although pink dress now, so progress.
Back to normal. Back to normal.
But
normal. Sorry.
Back
to whatever.
But again, you know, you have this thing, and I think it is very deliberate that we're seeing a reflection in the mirror. But you know, that final line is, "I'm real," right? This is not about, you know, questioning, is reality reality. This is about, no, you went on this journey that sucked, but there is a reality on the other side. There is life.
It sucked.
Yeah. When I first saw this, I thought Kon was pulling something. Because I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, somebody is in the mental ward.
Right, yeah.
Right. Mima's in the car. Why would you look in the mirror and be like, I'm real? Unless you were Rumi going, I'm Mima, I'm real. And it's just like, wait a minute. So who's But yeah, I mean, now that seen it again, it's just like, no, that's definitely Rumi. And she's definitely where she needs to be, and Mima has owned the experience and has moved on with her life.
It is worth noting the sunglasses, you know, hiding yourself, and not just being famous, but just this idea of, you know, I'm sure Mima is not exactly the same person that she was. Like,
no.
Again, she's been through things.
And she looks different. She's made it a point to look different. Yeah. Whereas Rumi is keeping her hair the way that Mima did.
Absolutely.
We also don't have a really good sense, is this has has Mima literally physically grown up a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody is injured. Like,
right.
she's not got stab wound on her, and she doesn't have a side wound, and everybody looks fine. So this could, is this a year later? Is this 6 months later? Is this 5 years later? And that's just now Mima's ritual to at least, to pay some homage to Rumi's efforts to help her in her career before trying to kill her.
And killing.
Thanks a lot for trying to be supportive until you weren't.
Thank you for your murderous spree that killed all these people and helped me be an actress. Thank you.
It also should be pointed out, like, this woman did murder multiple people, and she's just in this hospital somewhere. It's like, hope there are good guards. Just saying.
Yeah, right.
I'm assuming her like docile walking with the flowers means she's meted up one side down.
As if she didn't need it before.
She did need it before.
Clearly, yeah.
If she had been properly meted, this probably wouldn't happen.
Exactly. But and we talked about age. At least Mima's an adult. It should be pointed out, like, there are plenty of much younger girls who are pushed through this sort of meat grinder. It's one of the things I kind of respect about Kon is that he's very cognizant of those things.
Right.
Because boy, this was definitely a ride for Mima. Oof. No fun. But yeah, that is Perfect Blue, and obviously there are other layers, other symbolism, other things going on.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But gosh, your first film. This is what you
your
make.
Your first Satoshi Kon film, and at the end of it, you're just like,
how?
Please, teddy bear now.
I'm glad I made it a second time. Steve, how the hell you've seen this as many times as you have? I do not know.
Yeah.
Crazy's in my wheelhouse.
There's a lot packed in here. There's a lot to unpack. And it is one of those movies that definitely rewards multiple viewings in the sense, like we're talking about. You do pick up on things. You do notice things layered in.
Yeah.
Well, as I say, for the richness of some of the background stuff that you see, like the Polaroid on the Cham poster, did not notice that. So there's obviously going to be a richness that's probably in the building marquees that go by and things that happen in various places, significance or slightly different changes in the layout of the room itself. Are the teddy bears the same on Mima's side as they are on Rumi's side? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of way you could mine out a ton of stuff and then start dancing through the mirror.
Well, there is some Easter eggs in there, like not very meaningful Easter eggs, but just some fun stuff in there, like the pizza box. The name on the pizza box,
like Big Pizza,
is the name of a hit song that the guy who wrote the music to the movie. He was part of a band and he was a songwriter, and that was one. And that's just a nod back to what yeah. And so there was actually a couple of those in there, and which I thought was interesting. But one of the things that makes me laugh every time I see this movie, I know, laughing at this movie. Is
obviously
the actual...
you've seen it too much, Rumi.
But John, I'm you. Oh no. Is the music...
I hope you're doing it better.
The music that they play, like particularly when the violence comes up, reminds me of all the synth music from like the dramas of the actual live action dramas of that day. The Sharon Stone movies, the two movies she did, that one with Alec Baldwin, the other with Michael Douglas.
Oh yeah.
Indecent
Proposal.
Yeah, no, not Indecent Proposal. It was why can't I? It has the famous crossing legs scene. But anyway, so the songs, the music of that reminds me of those of those movies.
Was she in Sliver?
Yes, Sliver was the one with Alec Baldwin.
Okay.
Michael Douglas was another one, and I can't remember. And that was another one of a person. Actually, we need to look that up because that was actually a movie about Basic Instinct.
Thank you.
Because one of them was trying to be actually the other, just like in Perfect Blue. But the
single
music
white
was
female.
No, that was Jennifer Jason Leigh and
yeah, because she was trying to be her roommate or something like that.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, that's another one. But yeah, just the music was just reminding me of that. And then I was just like, oh yeah, well this did come out in 97, 98, so they probably all did the same soundtrack. Right? You know.
Yeah.
Just like everybody in the 80s used the Miami Vice soundtrack.
Jan Hammer.
So that is Perfect Blue. This is not the last Satoshi Kon we'll be talking about. We will be talking about Paprika in a little while. That's a great movie.
With the very disturbing hand scene.
I'm going to have to watch this all the way through now. I've only seen parts of it. Oh, jeez.
Not just the hand scene, but also the body, you know.
Is that, yep.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Also the scene at the end, which I definitely will not be able to show on screen.
No.
Where she grows. But yeah, anyway.
We'll be using pantomime puppets.
And then next week we'll talk about Princess Mononoke, which should be,
very cool. Something lighter and nicer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not heavy at all, that movie.
A rib tickler, if ever there was one.
Yeah. No serious themes being explored in that movie.
No.
Oh, gosh. We officially spent more time talking about Perfect Blue than the runtime of the movie. And that is very much the kind of movie it is, to give you all a sense.
And yet, there's still so much more.
Exactly, yes.
Still more in there.
There's only so much time in the world, so...
Yeah. So, we will be right back with the news and talking about the anime and manga we've been getting through lately, and I will be doing a little giveaway. So we'll see you guys in just a few minutes. We will be right back. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Konbanwa again.
Exactly. It's Saturday night. We just finished talking about Perfect Blue, which is a treat. And now we just want to chat a little bit about anime and manga and such. What have you all been doing this week? What you all been watching?
Actually, not much. I've been working a lot, but I have been reading.
Yeah.
I have been reading the original Robert E. Howard, The Bloody Crown of Conan.
Nice.
Wow.
So this is the guy who came up with Conan the Barbarian, the original thing, and it is just to talk about it for just 2 seconds. This is.
Do you have your action figure of Arnold that you
like
set up near you while you read this?
Actually, arguably Arnold Schwarzenegger's best movie, and I'm not kidding.
I would, yeah.
The guy who wrote those books, if you are a fantasy kind of sword and sorcery kind of into that kind of thing, this is from 1936. So this is from the 1930s. There was a limited number of stories, one unpublished book that he had made before he committed suicide at the age of 24.
Oof! Wow.
Something like that. It's Pulp Fiction, but when you read it, it's as if that you're reading something of sword and sorcery of today, the way that it's written. So you see a lot of so if you're really into that kind of thing, you read this and it goes way back, and you're just like, you realize it goes back almost a century.
So is this one of those things that's like genre setting?
Yeah, very much so. And
as you get that, I mean, H.P. Lovecraft died in 1937, and he's
they were friends.
setting so that
they were
going
friends.
forward, you see people do it in that vein. So that's funky.
Lovecraft was a mentor to Howard, and and one of the things that Howard did was for Conan the Barbarian, and was that he sort of changed names a little bit, but just you kind of still got like a sense of geography of the era. So you think of Conan the Cimmerian or Sumerian, and then they say, and he was in the state the land of Afghulis, Afghanistan. So he did things like that so that you would have a visual idea of the world around it without him having to.
Howard also wrote a couple of novels set in the Cthulhu mythos universe.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they knew each other. Yeah, totally. Although he passed away when he was 30 years old.
30 years old. Yeah, yeah.
Very sad. He said that when he wrote the Conan novels, he could literally feel Conan behind him, brandishing a weapon, threatening him to finish the story and get his stories out in the world. Howard was an interesting man.
Very confused. He discovered that his mom had terminal cancer, walked down from the 3-story flat, got into his car, went to the welcome bar, pulled out a .38 and shot himself in his car. And that was. But he was a very interesting. Wow. He was actually really into poetry. Like that's how he started his writing and stuff. And speaking of writing, what the other thing I did was work more on my non-published Baltiverse stories.
Nice. Cool. Sweet. That.
And I've come up with a treatment on a new group of anti-heroes that are a rockabilly group, a horror rockabilly group.
I thought you were going to say the John Watersman.
John Watersman. That's actually pretty awesome.
They drink Mountain Dew and
right.
And, yeah.
So they're the working title is Rockabilly Death Squad. So
I like it.
We'll see what goes on from there.
Possible question.
So there's
Sasquatch Man or something.
You're right.
Sergeant Sasquatch. Here we go.
Sasquatch. There we go. It can be found on Kindles everywhere. No,
exactly.
Wow.
So that's what I'm actually what I'm looking forward to is jumping back into watching Hormiya. The girl that watching, and watching. I'm a Spider Now, so what? Because I cannot stop thinking about that one.
It stays cute.
It does. All right,
yes,
cool,
it does.
Cool,
It's
cool.
nicely done.
John, I know you keep up with all the anime all the time.
Yes. So I just keep watching more and more and all the time, more. Spider's great. Obviously, I'm loving Eurocamp. Obviously, I'm loving Non Non Buri. And as we discussed a little bit before the stream started, I'd like to heavily warn people about Redo of Healer. That it starts with a TVMA as like a placard to start it. And I'm up to episode 3 now, and it is very much adult content with regards to forced encounters, and I'm not going to say the things that happen. But it is Vin. It's not. It's violation. It's not really hentai. It's violation, and it's rather shocking. And I would imagine anybody that would be sensitive to those subject matters, it would really behoove you to either not watch it or read a synopsis of it and determine for yourself whether you are comfortable with it. I want to know how they're doing this story, so I'm tolerating it. But quite honestly, it's 3 episodes into this. I'm very close to just being like, I can't deal with this. And I think a lot of us who watch a lot of anime have seen a lot of different stuff, and it's like, this is pretty tough. This is pretty tough stuff.
Beyond the pale.
So everybody be aware.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good to know. Ooh.
Yeah. So other than that, like, holy crap, usual sort of anime stuff. Just again, enjoying this new season. I really like the kid from the nowhere town near the last dungeon.
Oh yeah.
It's just stupid.
It's stupid fun, right?
It's just great because everything to him, it's your typical idiot OP character. You know what I mean? He just, like, there's monsters and stuff running around, and people are screaming, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, monsters!" He's like, "What are you talking about?" He like bats away a giant insect. He's like, "Where's the monster?" And they're like, "That thing," and he's like, "What? That's a bug." It's just like, he's such an idiot, and it's just fun. Everybody's just, it's like such a nice sort of easy to watch kind of show. It's so simple, and yet it's got, if you want to talk about simple, Non Buri, just the average everyday things going on. Eurocamp again, it's like just camping, it's just little slices of life, just beautifully, quietly done. This has got action, it's got magic, it's got swords, it's got fighting, and it's stupid as hell. So, good fun.
Fair enough.
I'm very pleased with the season so far on what's out there.
Well, I also caught up on Eurocamp, but I've also been catching up on Demon Slayer. So I'm up to episode 5, I think, now, and chugging along, watched a few episodes this week, and getting a better feel for why it is such a phenomenon. It is definitely very watchable, which is a weird word to use, but one of those, it's just very bingeable, there's just a lot going on. One thing I really appreciate, if folks are interested in Demon Slayer, is they're doing a really good job so far of matching the content to the episode. So often in shonen, things are just kind of happening and the episode just kind of ends. But this really feels like, we have, this thing happens in this episode and it kind of comes to some kind of resolution by the end of the episode. We deal with this monster in this episode, and then maybe it's taken care of, in the last episode or whatever, but we get kind of build up payoff or whatever. So, like, I can think back to each episode and go, oh, that's the episode where, right?
So it's not like Dragon Ball Z power up for 10 episodes.
Exactly, yeah.
Gohan gets his butt kicked by whoever.
What's also cool, and I don't think this is a spoiler, is that Tanjiro, the main character, doesn't want to hunt demons. He's just trying to find a cure for his sister, so he feels bad for them. He doesn't have the same, kill them all, like God sort them out, feeling that pretty much everybody else in his organization does, or on his side does. So that leads a very interesting element to it, where there's a certain amount of not redemption, but of realizing, these were people who got turned into this.
Empathy.
Empathy, exactly.
Yeah.
I've also been reading manga. So I read this week.
Holy.
So I got through the first 13 volumes of Shaman King.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you like that.
Which is also very readable. Just churn through it. I've probably come to a stopping point at this point, because unfortunately it entered an arena tournament arc, and I just find that boring as all get out. I don't think they stay there for very long, from what I've read in the future. But I admit, what I really like about some of the things I like about Shaman King though is that first off, it is very much shonen for young boys. Like, let's get out of the way. But okay, so basically, the concept is you have shamans who can ally with a spirit, a ghost, or a spiritual being of some kind, and unite with them in various ways. And what's going on right now is that there in the world is that there is a shaman fight every 500 years, where all the shamans get together and have this big competition, and whoever wins that basically gets the ability to unite with essentially the Great Spirit.
There can
so they become one. God.
Essentially, God becomes your spirit ally, if you will. You fuse with the spirit of all things, effectively. Wow. Yeah. And so obviously there's this huge, very deadly competition because people just kind of eliminate people right and left.
Right.
There's a surprising amount of death in Shaman King. What I appreciate is that Yo, the main character, Yo, he believes that everybody who can touch, who's open to shamanism, has some good in them. So you meet all of these whacked out shonen villains, Frieza level crazy supervillains, and pretty much every single one so far has had a redemption arc. Like, a lot of them become his friends. They turn. They feel bad for what they've done, and they have a whole shift. And you've got people, one of them vivisected one of the main characters. It's a creepy dude.
Wow.
Yeah. Guy was still alive, too.
How do you redeem from that?
That's the thing.
He had a splinter deep inside him.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting element to it, is that you've got all these characters that in any other shonen series would be defeated and forgotten. But you come back, and I don't know if I'll do that for every single one, but it's been a really nice element. He also does a really good job of balancing all the different aspects of like drama and comedy and action and all that kind of stuff. So there's always something going on. It's easy to go through. And there's just enough moments of characters kind of thinking through things, introducing aspects of their beliefs, to have just enough depth, to kind of keep you going. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, the new Shaman King is coming out next season. The new remake of Shaman King. It's one of the reasons I've been chugging through this, just to kind of get a better feel for it. So enjoyable if you realize you're getting. Other useful thing. Shaman. It's a nicely multicultural manga, in that you see lots of different cultures' takes on blanket term shamanism. It's obviously very much dumbed down for like 8-year-old boys' version of shamanism, but I feel like the mangaka did a lot of research and is trying to present different cultures as effectively as possible, given the limitations of, page length and so forth and so on. Right. So it is neat seeing. Here's a shaman. Bless you. Here's a Japanese shaman. Here's South American, and Native Americans are a big part of the story as well. So interesting.
Good lord.
I also read
on that one.
COVID.
Yeah. I also read 2 volumes of a manga called I Guess I Became the Mother of the Great Demon King's 10 Children in Another World.
Pretty short, that.
Is this an ecchi?
That's what I can't figure out. I'm 2 volumes in and I have no idea where they're going or what they're doing with this manga. main character is a 16-year-old girl. Her father died when she was an infant. Her mother died a year ago, saving her from Truck Coon.
Oh, boy.
That's the setup. She's now kind of getting over all of that, and she thinks, boy, I just hope someday I can be as good a woman as my mother was. And that I can be as good of a mother as my mother was. Whereupon a summoning circle appears around her, and she pops up in the demon world, in a fantasy world, isekai, because the demon lord is now old enough that he needs to start producing his children, and they cast a spell to find whoever in the universe most wanted to be a mother in that instant. And she happened, the needle fell on her, so she needs to now get it on with the demon lord, who is very much serious Bishonen character, and have 10 children.
Mars demon lord women. Also
yes,
16?
Exactly. No, he's like 25, 30-ish sort of in thing. Now, I should point out, this is happening to her through magic. So literally, like, she drinks a potion and like a giant egg just sort of, it's like her belly swells for like a minute, and then suddenly like an egg pops up next to her, and the egg hatches and a child crawls out.
Wow.
Satoshi Kon was easier.
Exactly, yeah. And so she's dealing with the fact like the demons, and so one of the problems is the demons basically can't reproduce with each other, so they have to reproduce with humans. But the demons are at war with the humans in their world, so they have to summon humans from other worlds to procreate with. So the thing is, the demons.
Wasn't there an anime that was like a couple of years ago where a guy goes and with his best friend and they get transported to another world and he has to copulate with all of these women to produce children?
Oh, right.
In the dungeon thing?
Yeah. So, yeah, well, and this is what I don't get, is that they're at war with the human world, and her producing these demon babies is going to essentially turn the tide of the war to kill off the humans, which she doesn't want. But then she, through plot nonsense, like goes to the human kingdom and meets like their big hero, who is an affable, nice, like 17-year-old boy. So that's a whole thing where now she kind of likes her, and he likes, she likes him and he likes her, but she's with the Demon King. The Demon King is very serious and stuffy, and she doesn't like that. But over time, he's starting to melt, and he's starting to be really nice, and he's this really nice, father-husband figure. So she kind of likes that. But then also, like, she has to breastfeed. And so we get that in there.
This is like drunk Disney.
It is. So, like, there is...
This is either the most ingenious story ever or the worst idea I've ever heard. Not sure which.
One of the demon girls basically walks around in a bikini all the time.
Oh, of course.
So, yeah. So, like... It's weird because on the one hand, it's kind of like sweet shoujo vibes of like her relationship with the Demon King, and he's starting to get nicer and all that. And he's starting to understand this whole relationship thing. There's slight etchiness here and there, goofiness, a lot of goofy comedy. There's kind of the mothering aspect. Of course, she has children, and of course they grow like immediately. So like they're growing like a month, an hour, or whatever. So they're getting really old very quickly. And so there's like cute raising a family stuff. It's kind of slice of life, but with demons. It's just very weird, and I'm enjoying every chapter.
You never wanted.
Right.
You didn't know you were hungry for it, but here you are.
So yeah, I don't know what the target audience is.
All of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just yes.
Yeah,
exactly. The answer is yes.
That seems to be the thing, is they're kind of trying to tick every single box, and so far they're kind of doing it. So it's weird.
How can they maintain that kind of
I don't know! That's the other thing, is I'm like, oh my gosh, this has gone so far in 2 volumes, but also nowhere at all. So it's really weird. So if you get a chance, it's on Kindle and so forth and so on. It's a weird ride. Definitely not deep. Not the kind of stuff I'm normally into on that score, but it was one of those things where I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's pretty well reviewed. What am I reading? And it starts with my parents are dead.
Yeah.
Strange. Very strange.
Maybe there's more meaning as you get further into it.
Maybe
everything will be revealed in volume 25.
Yes. And I believe only 2 volumes are out so far. That's as far as they've gotten in the English translation, and I don't think there are many more in Japanese. So it's ongoing. One of the reasons I got it is I was like, the anime is coming. Isekai, shoujo, shonen. Like this is absolutely. But yeah, it's a trip.
Sounds like it.
Oh yeah.
I can just only imagine if it comes out as an anime, and I'll be sitting there watching it, and then a family member will walk into the room and go, "Her belly grew. There's an egg." What? Steve, what are you?
I swear, this is for the stream. I'm just
watching
the new season anime.
I'm taking
notes. Nothing to do with me.
I'm taking notes. Why?
Speaking of which, new season of anime. Oh man. I got a chance to look at what's coming down the pike next season. Ooh, I'm gonna be interested because we have the remake of Shaman King. We have the remake of Battle Athletes Victory.
Really?
Yeah. The weird sports anime set in the year 3000, I think.
Yeah.
Lord.
It's one of the most 90s anime I've ever seen, especially the character designs. They're doing a remake of that.
I remember you telling us about that one. Being like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's got a remake.
Sports competition thing.
I wouldn't have thought for this season they would have made Horimiya again. But
exactly. Who knows?
This is the thing.
This is the thing. There is also there was something else on here besides the really big one I wanted to mention.
Eurocamp. Or Eurocamp.
If only.
Perfect Blue Part 2.
Yeah, exactly. There was. I can pull it from here. 1 second. Boop.
The girls in Cham go completely.
Yeah, exactly.
Go nuts.
There is also. Was that? New Zombieland Saga. Like, yes, please.
Okay.
But also, there is To Your Eternity. The manga of which is the second major series by a mangaka whose first major series was A Silent Voice.
Oh, God.
I have read the first...
We have to watch it.
I have read the first volume of it. It is a historical epic.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I'll take that.
Hell yeah.
Yep. And if... Based on what I've read of the manga, I am almost sure I know exactly everything that's going to happen in the first episode. For those of you who read the manga, you know, like, how that is going to go, what they're going to end on. Like, that first episode is gonna intrigue a lot of people. So yeah, that's coming in like 2 months.
And that's a series or a movie?
And that is a series.
Wow.
And there. I mean, it's 10 or 11 volumes out already. I think like it's been going for a while.
So I'm just trying to envision like, can you make a silent voice into a series?
You certainly could.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
you could
7 volumes of that, I think. So you certainly could.
Much more progression from their first encounter to them like sort of coming into a court. Wow.
There's also you can also do more like with like the mothers, the stuff like that, their relationships and so forth. Yeah, but this is nothing to do with the silent voice. It is all historical epic. It is very different.
Thinking the quality, and the detail,
totally.
Just the loving attention that Silent Voice as a film was. That this is a series. You're like, oh please.
Oh my God.
Yep. Exactly.
So basically, I'm going to go blind watching this thing. I'm going to binge it.
Hopefully. And you said you read some of the.
I've read the first 2 volumes. Yes.
Okay.
And I have like 5 volumes of it here, which I want to get to soon.
Because it's like, wouldn't that be just like an interesting twist? It's like Silent Voice, here we go, and it's like Ishizoku Reviewers 2. Like, how could you do such a beautiful thing and then do that? Not that it's not beautiful in its own way. But...
Exactly. It is being animated by Brainspace, Studio Brainspace, who have done things like let's see here. Looking for things I'm familiar with. Mawaru Penguin Drum.
Yeah.
Oh. Spice and Wolf 2.
Yep.
Bacano. Durarara. But also like my Genie romantic comedy Snafu.
Which I
Renee. Cheer Boys, actually, which I remember having a good budget. Assassination Classroom, the OVA, which was very well animated. Yeah, also The Boy Who Saw the Wind. That is an anime movie nobody watched, but I happen to like. Yeah, so that's coming next season.
yeah,
that'd be interesting.
So at one point we're all going to go blind, right?
Pretty much.
Yes.
Nah.
Pretty much.
There's no time to go blind. There's only anime. There's no time for blindness.
Actually, the only thing we'll ever be able to see again is anime.
Yeah.
We don't see the real world
The funny thing is, what I'm very most curious about next season is Eden Zero comes out next season, which is the Fairy Tail guys' next thing.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I'm wondering how that's gonna fall, right? Like, are people ready for that, or is it gonna just people like, no, it's not Fairy Tail, I don't want it. We'll see.
I think yes to all of that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's gonna be like
Fairy
a
Tail is rough.
crazy mix of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You didn't do Fairy Tale Part 98? No, I don't want to watch that.
How many more times?
That makes sense, Captain Laser Eyes. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff there. So, how many folks are in the chat? If you're in the chat, please let me know. Just post something in there because I want to do a giveaway with the folks there in the chat.
Ooh.
And if folks are available, and the chat is still alive, I have these 2 volumes of No Game, No Life, the light novels, the original light novels, which is based on. So you'll get, I haven't actually seen the anime, but it's a good chunk of story in here. And you can see behind the scenes, or behind the eyes, if you will, what the characters are thinking. There's a fair amount of art in this as well. So you get little images of little moments from the various characters, having their moments. I will say there are definitely, things in this story. The characters do things that some folks may find a little problematic, and maybe a little bit more problematic in the light novels and in the anime, depending on how the anime handled that. Also, there is art in here. There are full color posters. I'll try to find one that I can actually show on screen. Because some of them are a little bit. There we go. That's fine.
Now, did you see at least the first episode of the
I don't
anime,
think I did.
Brent?
No, I think this is
Wow.
before
I
was doing
did. I saw it at Otakon.
Oh, there we go.
It's very.
It was an enjoyable ride.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, for a series, it was fairly decent. I enjoyed the film that sort of dealt with Shui and some of the other things with Jabril.
Okay.
It was an interesting ride.
Cool. Yeah, there is some nudity in some of these images, so just be aware of that. If you happen to have your leaving it out on a table somewhere where your parents can see it, might not be the best thing.
Coffee table reading.
Yeah, exactly.
You have guests,
exactly.
when you have guests over.
Put some lovely color artwork in there as well.
Have a PTA meeting in the house and leave these strewn about.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
that'll go well.
Honestly, just the cover of the first volume is a little bit. Huh? What is that? Come on. So
It's an alien space princess. Don't worry, she's a million years old.
Yeah, clearly. Oh, age is also a thing in this, but we're not going to go there.
Don't.
Yeah, no. So I don't see folks lighting up in chat. I can't really give things away if there's no one around to receive them. So we may hold off a little bit on the giveaway until a little bit later. See what folks might be able to get, and we will find out. And do I hear that?
Steve's phrase. It's the news. No offense. Still the best hot pastrami on rye with cold dressing that I've ever had.
And welcome back to the latest anime news for the week ending January 30th, 2021. Let's see here. So, it's a time of year when summaries are released about the previous year's sales markets. Unsurprisingly, markets in Japan, and likely the rest of the world, were down in 2020, though the print market fared better than it has in several years. And also unsurprisingly, the rise of Demon Slayer had a noticeable effect on both the print market and the Japanese box office. Japan's Motion Picture Producers Association announced its 2020 National Film Overview on Wednesday, which showed that both the number of movie theater attendees and the box office revenue was down about 45% from 2019, of course, due to theater closures and restrictions. Would have been much lower without Mugen Train, of course. The film's revenue alone accounted for a quarter of the overall Japanese box office total last year, and a third of the total for Japanese films. Jeez. After dominating the Japanese market, Mugen Train finally premiered in South Korea on Wednesday, and it ranked number 1 for the day through advanced ticket sales before it had even opened. The film accounted for nearly 42% of all tickets sold across the country that day.
Oh my god.
While people couldn't go out to movies in 2020, they picked up a lot more books. The publication journal Shuppan Geppo revealed on Monday that sales of print books and magazines in Japan fell only 1% in 2020, which is the smallest per-year decline since 2006. The journal attributed the decrease in decline to the increase in reading due to COVID, but also due to the huge boom of the Demon Slayer manga and its related publications. The increase in electronic publications was also in large part due to the online version of Demon Slayer manga. Electronic publication sales overall increased 28% for the previous year, marking the second consecutive year of growth because, of course, Demon Slayer. Yeah, the Mugen Train keeps on going. Man. So,
might as well be called the Money Train now.
Yeah,
have to call it Mugen Train. It's Money Train.
So this answers one of our big questions, which was, once Mugen Train leaves Japan, what's the trajectory in other countries? Like, how will it fall? Well, pretty well.
There you go.
Yeah, like a freaking rocket, heading for the stars.
I'm more surprised about the publication numbers.
Yeah.
People have been saying print's dead, but apparently not.
When you got nothing else to do, I mean, literally you get, it's an odd concept, but literally you get tired of watching things.
True.
Sometimes it's nice to actually just sit down with paper and ink and look at them, read.
I also wonder how many people are doing, one of the things that some of us have been doing is that, okay, you read the anime, now read the manga, read the novels, kind of go back and expose yourself to that stuff.
Yeah.
Easily do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My gosh.
My pachinko parlor someday.
There we go. Mm-hmm.
Start getting the footprint rights right now.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Once it opens here.
I went to a local arcade and they had this weird sort of quasi pachinko machine. It was really bizarre, and I guess it's because I'm just more familiar with pachinko, but because I went in there and they have all these different arcade machines, and one was, drop the ball on the goldfish. And it had the little nails in it and so forth. And so you paid your money and you pressed the button and it dropped a ball. Dunk! And you won tickets. I was like, you guys need to go to Japan. Like, that's really underwhelming when you're used to, 300 balls all going through all at once. Like, it's much more exciting. I don't know. Very strange. But moving right along. Interesting story. The Nikkan Sports newspaper revealed this week that the Japanese government is considering rules that would allow copyright holders to regulate cosplay activity done for profit. While cosplayers who earn no money from their activities wouldn't be under any law restrictions, those who earn an income from cosplaying could possibly be seen as violating copyright law. The report stated that the government is investigating the issue currently and has yet to propose any legislation, but is seeking opinions from both copyright holders and famous professional cosplayers like Inako. Currently, cosplayers earn income through their cosplay with methods like subscriptions or membership services, appearances at events like conventions, or selling costumes and props. The question of whether cosplay violates any reproduction or adaptation copyrights has actually been in discussion within and outside the community for years. Taro Yamada, the leader of the Japanese Party to Protect Freedom of Expression and member of the Japanese House of Councilors, believes it's possible to maintain an ecosystem that benefits both copyright holders and cosplayers fairly. he is currently investigating the way forward for Japanese copyright law in this age of user-generated content. This is really interesting, I think, because it is kind of a question that's been out there for a long time. Is that this is, like a doujinshi. It's fan-produced content about something.
Right.
Where does it fall legally?
When you so in theater, when you create costumes, your costume designer doesn't create a copyright, but she or he creates a intellectual property.
Mm-hmm. Right.
On their costuming, the way that they make it, and it's more technical. It's not about what it looks like. It's more technical, and it's more period. So it's not like a specific thing.
Yeah, doublet looks like any other doublet.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So when you're looking at, like cosplay for, when you're looking at cosplay, when you're actually talking about somebody doing it, as like at a convention, I think we're all clear that this is not a moneymaker.
Yeah, exactly.
It is what it is. But when you go to Comic-Cons, and there have been at Otakons where you see models wearing cosplay, and you look at them and you know that they don't really know what they're wearing. Right. Like I've got a great picture of the Puma girls from the Tank Boys, two young ladies, and well, let's just say that there's a little venue here in Baltimore that they also perform at. Okay, so it's it is a marketing tool, and there is like at one point I can see the problem where if you have because character design is intellectual property,
right?
So when you create these things, there is a point where you just kind of go, hey, wait a minute, that's my work, and you're profiting off that work, and I can see where, like, if you go to a contest of cosplay and you're cosplaying as someone, but it's allowed within the rules, I don't think anybody has any problem with that.
Right.
It's the events, it's the showing up as Spider-Man, because
it's being paid for.
And people.
Well, and what's the definition of pay? Because I can think of several years ago a particular con, there was somebody who was Jack Sparrow, and I don't know that they necessarily got paid, but they got food, lodging, transport.
Right.
They got everything. If they didn't get a dime out of it, they didn't have to spend a dime.
No,
so
pay means not just monetary. It means if you benefit of it in that way.
Hotel, transportation, food,
those are
considered from it.
Those are considered business costs. So of sending somebody in, so you can arguably say, hey, that's my work. Now compile that with when you go into stores and you see Wolford's gun, the Trigun, and it's a model that's made by what was that, Bandai or Aniplex? I forget.
I think Bandai.
Yeah. And so whatever company does that, they're saying once you buy it, you're allowed to use it.
Right.
It's that kind of thing. But it's just it's just really tough, because when you say cosplay, where is that line where it just kind of goes? Because for me, I can definitely discern it in certain cases, but in certain other cases, like the Puma girls, I know they're from Baltimore, so I know it's not any food or lodging or anything like that, like the Jack Sparrow guy that you guys are talking about. So is this just something for themselves to promote themselves? And this is the way they did it? Or are we talking about an entity making money off of this?
Right. And especially in a world like anime, where you stage Les Miserables, and there is not a you can do those costumes in a variety of ways. Spike Spiegel has a very specific look. All these characters have very specific character design, very specific outfits. So when you're cosplaying that character, it's much more clear, identifying that character.
Right.
And like we said, and as they're pointing out in the chat room, some cosplay girls make thousands of dollars on Patreon a month, right? Like that's they're clearly making income, and more power to them. But there is that question of, this is somebody else's IP at some level.
Well, who was it? Jennifer Nagiri or something? I think is one of those big cosplayers that she has tens of thousands of followers.
Yeah.
And that's her thing. That's what she does.
Yeah. Yeah. Now compile it with actual and the reason why I bring up theater and stuff like that is because I'll tell a Patrick Stewart story. Back in the day when I was working at Arena Stage down in DC, Patrick Stewart was over at the Shakespeare Theater, not the Folgers, but the other one, playing Othello. He was playing Othello, not in blackface.
Good.
But it was actually he was the only white guy on the cast. Everyone else was African American.
Yeah.
So he played Othello, and so he came over. We were doing Touch of the Poet, and he came over for the opening night because the captain from Hill Street Blues was the lead in our show, and not a nice guy. But anyway, Patrick Stewart came over, and he was sitting there, and people coming up to him and talking to him, and just like as you would follow rules anywhere else, you would just say, "Hey, can I take a picture with you?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure. Come on, let's do it." And this is back in the '90s, so it wasn't digital camera; it was actual film camera. And then some little idiot came up, snapped a picture with no permission. Patrick Stewart said, "Sorry, I have to go." Turned around and walked out. And the reason why is because his face is the money. So you can't just go up and take somebody's picture. And like that. If you're not paparazzi from off the street, you can't just go up and take somebody's picture. So again, where is that line of what is acceptable? Like if he's walking down the street and you snap a shot, then he just not going to do anything about it. But if you're in an enclosed environment like that, where you should ask permission, you don't. It's my face. It's money. If I give you permission to do it, that's fine. You can do whatever the hell you want with that picture. But if you don't ask me permission, then I gotta leave because it's actually my moneymaker.
It's interesting, and I really like the use of the term income here. I think that does sound like the differentiator, where they're not saying I once got paid $20 to show up at a thing or whatever. It's you're making an actual repeatable income off of this. And again, it's regulation is not ban. It's how do we find the right middle ground there?
Right.
So, I don't know. Not a lawyer.
A permission-based kind of thing where it'll have to be written permissions to do things.
Right. Or royalties of some kind where you whatever.
If I was the anime industry, that's the route I would go. I'd just do a low percentage royalty, and there's a source of income for you.
Yeah, the legal stuff there would be difficult though because who owns what? Well, who knows? Hopefully they can just establish a consortium and say, okay, everything funnels to the consortium, and then the consortium kind of figures out who gets what. If only. I'm sure it'll be that simple.
It'll just happen like that.
Right, totally. It was revealed this week that the TV anime series Cells at Work will become the first new TV anime broadcast on Chinese television in 14 years.
Wow.
The show will broadcast on China Central Television, a state-owned and run network. The move is seen as both a warming of relations between Japan and China and as an attempt to help Chinese people learn more about the workings of their bodies in light of the coronavirus pandemic. The last new TV anime to be broadcast in China was Case Closed in 2007. That's right, Detective Conan. After which the regulations for animation on Chinese TV got stricter, becoming limited to mainly educational series and more favorable to domestic productions. Anime produced after 2007 were no longer approved for broadcast, although any approved before 2007 were allowed to be rebroadcast. Chinese anime fans mainly access anime through, you guessed it, streaming services like Bilibili, which has become a huge player in both the Chinese anime market and the domestic Japanese market over the last decade. Chinese fans are understandably excited about the broadcast and hopeful this will lead to more anime being shown on TV in the future. I just find it hilarious that of all the anime, the one to break through...
A little late for Wuhan.
Wasn't Mugen Train.
I know. Give it time.
I love the idea that somebody's trying to rationalize things a lot. It'll help people understand their bodies.
Right. Education. It's education.
Exactly. I'm not going to go and perform brain surgery after watching Cells at Work. I'm sorry. It's somewhat educational, but the broader sense of
Can
things.
you imagine that classroom? Can you imagine that classroom? There's a little guy all dressed in white with a knife, and he's in your body and killing things.
And he murders germs. Like,
no.
And you want to be an epidemiologist? Really?
Because Plant the Child is so cute.
Exactly. I love red blood cell. I'm going to be a phlebotomist. Okay. Good on you.
Yeah, it's weird. But I totally agree. I think this is one of those things where it's just kind of simpatico, you know.
Yeah.
It's happened to be the right time for it. It also helps that it should be pointed out, Cells at Work is not set in Japan, right? There's no possibility of any sort of weird cultural things or mentioning the war. None of that's going to come up. So it's very safe. Right.
We don't even know if the body is Japanese.
Exactly.
It could be anybody. Anybody.
So yeah, I think that does make sense. But cool, great. Can't wait to see memes. This will be interesting. 1 billion people are watching Cells at Work at once.
Well, that just means that series just went
off
the charts. Like, wow, look at its incredible popularity.
Invest in Cells at Work right now. Like, put your money down. They got 2 new series coming out.
Yeah, I probably should have done that about a week ago before this actually hit.
Did I miss another pachinko game?
Yeah. I missed out on GameStop, and I missed out on this. So it's so frustrating. Moving on to less happy news. This week, the president of OTA Corp, the volunteer-run nonprofit organization that runs the annual Otakon convention, released a newsletter about the future of the con. President Brooke Zerlot announced in the letter that the organization is requesting donations for the first time. Otacon's convention staff are currently evaluating plans for 2021 and noted that the event may potentially be forced to permanently close. Because of the cancellation of Otakon 2020, the organization is in a, quote, precarious position, end quote. Zerlot said, quote, we use the proceeds from each year to plan the next Otakon and make sure we survive until then. So without the income from Otakon 2020 and the early prejudices we would normally see at this time of year, we are in a very precarious position. Put simply, in the next few months, we'll have to make a decision to continue planning for Otakon 2021 or potentially close our doors forever, end quote. The statement added that despite the bleak outlook, the staff remain hopeful alongside the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine. They're currently working with partners in D.C. to explore options to safely gather later this year. It is still currently scheduled for August 6th through 8th at D.C.'s Walter E. Washington Convention Center. Oh boy, do I have thoughts. Steve, I know you have thoughts. Go for it.
Yeah. So, first of all, big support, Otakon, all the various ones. So before I get into my own thoughts, just for the people out in chat land and in general, remember that people who do Otakon and who do these cons, this is not a professional job for them. This is, a labor of love that they do. So there's things that they're, they might be making mistakes on, but it's not their job. They have jobs. They have other concerns in their lives that are, quite frankly, more important. So just keep that in mind. And that's what I was kind of saying off the chat, off the stream earlier. One of the things that they aren't, and that they clearly don't have anybody on staff that paying attention to, is that they're not fundraisers. One of the big problems that they're going to have right now is that their messaging isn't very consistent because it's not on the website.
Right.
It's not on the website. It's not being communicated equitably, like I found out through Discord, through the unofficial Otakon website on Discord, and even then I looked at it and I said, let me look this up and just make sure this is a thing. It is, but it's just not being mentioned on the website, which has its own governing body. Just so that people understand what this means, is that Otacorp is the governing body of Otakon. So that's kind of their executive board and board members. They determine they make the ultimate decisions. Okay. So the Otakon board, they do the fun stuff, where they come up with the panels, the schedules, but they're also responsible for the contracts and things like that. Otacorp is the final approval of those things. So to have the president of Odacore come out and put out this letter in a very kind of not very nice way to put this, just not an effective way, and not doing it on the website at the same time caused a lot of confusion. If you look at the BBS boards, there are people that are talking about what are the goals, what are these things. That's not being communicated, and there's actually a reason for that. So just keep in mind that the rollout of this ask for donation is not what I would have done. This is a job that I have done for many years when I'm not working in retail. This is how I raise money for theaters and things like that. There's asks that you do, and this is what you do. They did not hire somebody to do this for them, or they did not have anybody on the board that could do this for them. They are correct in that every previous year, the revenue that they get pays for the following year. They don't really, and this is true of almost all performance nonprofits, theaters, operas, your local symphonies, things like that, even your libraries, stuff like that. They go on the budget pays from year to year to year. So when it sounds like the last time that I sat through a budget meeting for Otakon, that they actually make a panel for that.
Yeah.
And the last time I did that was at the BCC. It was last year at the BCC, and it was at the time I think I want to say it was 1.3 million is the budget. Keep in mind that's not a lot of money actually. My theater, which is a very small theater, which only had 22 full-time people working at it, had a budget of about 2.1 million, and we go from year to year to year. And of course, what goes down too. So it's not a whole lot of money, and COVID. So you have a combination of people not really knowing how to do this properly, and a combination of unknowing what's going to happen between now and August. Actually, it's really between now and probably April. They're going to have to make a decision by April.
They're going to have to decide soon.
Because the 5-year contract that they have with. Now, keep in mind, folks, that I am not privy to what the contract negotiations were, so I can give you a pretty good educated guess as to what's in there. But what it is that they were able, because of last year, the convention center made the decision to be a place for overflow for COVID patients. Therefore, Otakon was not at fault. So Otakon got a pass on 2020, so to speak. They still had to pay for things.
Okay.
They still had to pay for some things. There's some fees that they probably had to pay out, but they didn't have to pay for the whole other thing. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff they didn't have to pay for. And what they were hoping to do was take the money from 2021 and use that ability to get that pass and have that money for 2021, whatever that looked like, on top of the revenue that they were going to get. So clearly what happened was that there weren't enough people who said, okay, I bought for 2020, and they're saying that I can just let it roll over into 2021 with the understanding that I can't get a refund for it. But I can do that. So there's that money that went there, but it clearly wasn't enough. The revenue that they get in, understand that that's actual cash money that they can use and there to pay for things.
Well, when it was announced that it was canceled last year, they said that follow these links. If you don't want to roll it, follow these links and we'll issue refunds. So I'm, you know what I mean? It's like I let mine roll because that's, you know what I mean? If it ends up that I never go and they keep it, but that means there'll be an Otakon, that's fine. But I imagine there's a fair number of people who said, no, I need that back now because I'm unemployed.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. So that's why they actually issued refunds, because there was a bet that things would be better, which they weren't. And so now they're having to do this, and I can go on for the next 3 hours and tell you guys what's involved in putting together a convention, because it's not unlike what I used to do in the theater, and putting together shows and putting in showrunners and stuff like that. And so it's very, 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 very similar. But just know that they need that money. So for 20 to 21 to happen. Now, I will tell you that 2021 would have looked a lot different. It's the days of the 26 to 30,000 attendees are over. They're done. So there would have been a cap, but it would have been a cap that would have paid for 2021. They're not getting that money now because realistically, and this is through no fault of anybody's, this is realistically, nobody can accurately tell us what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So why would you put your money down if you don't think you're going to go to a convention? So what Otakon is doing is that what they're trying to do is they're trying to hedge their bets, because if they can get a 2021 out, they can get a 2022 out. If they can get the 2022 out, they can maintain the contract. The reason why they're talking about closing their doors is because if they can't pay the 2021, pretty much the convention center says, well, we can't totally, this is prime real estate. We can't keep holding this place for you indefinitely through the contract. So this is good. This will break the contract. This will break the contract. And so that's why they're saying close the doors forever.
Yeah.
What does close the doors forever mean? So in my mind, it's a way, and I don't want to discourage people from donating or buying, because I actually want you to. That's my support, right? Okay. So I would like people, I'm considering it myself. I'm like, I haven't been able to go for this since 2017 for various reasons. And as a matter of fact, I have a Ian has on his neck. You can't quite see it, but he has a let's see if you can see it from this side. Can you guys see it?
Otakon badge? What?
Yeah, that's
2019. Nice. Yep, there we go.
2019. I never went. I got the badge, but I never went. But what I would imagine would happen is that Otakon, it would shut down. You're not going to see it at the convention center. They'll go somewhere else. But it's going to take time. Yeah. So for those of us who, like some people, like when I heard when they were moving from BCC down to DC, I had a lot. I don't know if you went to that end panel, the closing ceremonies. Yeah. There's a lot of people who are just like, hey, thanks for the memories. It's just like the book, thanks for all the fish, but we're gone now. No, we're no longer we're aging out. So, so to speak. And so they're not coming back. So Otakon could come back. Keep in mind that Otakon's also part of what's going on in Las Vegas. My guess is that the Las Vegas one is going to survive a little bit better than the one in DC is going to do. Las Vegas is a totally different set of variables.
I can only imagine.
And so, but so Otakon might be throwing his chips into something else, but it'll take somewhere between my guess, educated guess, is if they close down, it'll be 2 to 5 years. So there's going to be a question of, well, they keep throwing off these events, and let's talk about the donations. These events that they do down in DC. Well, that is part of their grant writing program. So they do have grant writers, and these are people who write, for contracts through the DC government, Virginia government, Maryland government, to get money to say, hey, we're an educational program. This is what we want to do, and these are the things. How can we get it to pay for it? And so people will give you a set amount of money for it. The thing is that's called restricted income. So what that means is that money has to go for that thing. So you can't take that money. And it's not like a 401k where you can pay a penalty and take that money and use it and put it to some other use. That money is for that use. You cannot take that money out. So Otakon may actually have cash, but they can't use it without a severe penalty. Like I've seen penalties up to 75%.
Wow.
It's usually like half to 75%.
Gotcha.
But you don't get that much out of it to bring into another thing unless you have a very generous grant giver who's saying, "Oh yeah, sure, why not?" Yeah. Okay, we'll write it off this time. So there's that. But what they're doing, what's called operational, what they're asking for is called operational income. The operational income is what pays for basically the lights of the convention center to turn on, to have the food there, to rent the space, to rent the guards, the blah 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 blah. You get it.
Oh, yeah.
So you have that operational money that goes there that pays for the making of the badge, the mailing it to you, the things like that. That's what they're asking for. That's what they're asking for. Is they're asking for the operational income so they can actually host the event.
Gotcha.
So that's what your money is going for. So, and that's why there is not a goal. There is not a goal for this, because there should not be a goal for this. This goal, you want to take as much money as you come in. This is not like a Patreon where we go, it costs us $2 million to make this movie, so if we hit the $2 million budget, then we can go. No, the Otakon needs this to be open-ended. Theaters, like what I do for theaters, was if it wasn't ticket sales, what it would be is it would be a twice a year mailing, email, blast kind of thing. Use MailChimp or whatever, and you go out there and you say, thank you so much for your, would you like to donate $25 to us? And this is what it goes to pay for, and blah, 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 blah. And you send that out. So that's what Otakon is trying to do, but they're not doing it very well. Yeah. This is not how I would have done it. It should be unified between Otakon and Otacore. The Otacore message could have been tweaked a little bit better. And it should have shown up in both places, and there should have been a mass email to current, former members, anyone who has ever shown up to Otakon, and say the last, if you want to specify DC from 2017 on, if you wanted to hit the nostalgia button, you can go all the way back to 2004, which is when I showed up. They have the actual list, so they don't even have to buy a list to do it out. They can just send the money out, and it should be more accessible than the Amazon Smile. Amazon Smile is not bad. It's just that there are other ways that you can give money to as well, and that's not. And they are there. They do exist. It's just hard to find.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here and let you guys talk.
That's
about
fine.
I've been talking about it forever, but basically, it's I would say that they're aiming to open. They're really trying hard for it. They're finding ways to do it. I'm willing to bet their whatever grant writers they have are working overtime to find the money, to find. Oh, and this is the reason why the PPP does not apply to Otakon. It's because not the small business loans that the government was.
Okay. Yeah.
The reason why those don't apply to Otakon is because Otakon itself, even though it's a nonprofit, they don't have any employees. It's all volunteer. Whereas my theater is nonprofit, Chesapeake Shakespeare Company is nonprofit, but we had 22 employees. So we had people, so we could actually ask for that money and get it.
Yeah.
Otakon, unfortunately, cannot. Even though they pay for services like accounting services and lawyer services, they themselves don't have employees, so there's no way for them to get money. But I would imagine that they're going to try. They're going to go all out and try for 2021, and it's going to take. If the money is there for 2021, and the government decides no, we're not going to do it, it's through no fault of Otakon.
Sure.
But Otakon has to raise the money to be able to pay for these things. They're not, as a nonprofit, there are accounts that you can save money in. There are things that you can do that they save money, but you're kind of restricted in what you're able to do with that.
Sure.
So that's why Otakon doesn't say, oh, we're just going to tuck 500,000 this year, 200,000 that last year, and blah blah blah. And that's why they don't have a cash reserve with which to work from.
Gotcha.
Okay, so
interesting.
Okay, so if anybody in chat land has any questions or whatever, I'm gonna.
Thank you. No, that's really interesting.
You guys go for it.
No, I'm conflicted because, not to flex any geek muscles, Otakon was my first convention, like anything ever. It was my first anime convention, my first convention experience. It was actually 2001, and I can't forget that experience. And I've been to a bunch of Otakons since. for a long time it was just kind of, when I thought of the con experience, Otakon was it. But I've also said to people, Otakon makes a big deal about being by fans and for fans, and often it shows. Just that is a convention where you'll walk by the placard they have out in front of a panel room, and it shows the panels that day, and half of them will be crossed out.
Right.
And it's like, come on. And there's just a lot of things about the show that feel very much like a bunch of volunteers were putting on that show, and great, but just not very organized in a lot of ways. And so on the one hand, like I'm not surprised that they're having troubles, both just monetarily and also in messaging. But it's also always hard to see something of this scale, of this importance, if you will, to struggle the way it does. I don't want to see this happen. And I'll just, it closing, but I don't like seeing Otakon struggle so much just to put on a show. So I don't know. I think this is one of those things where, like you say, through no fault of their own, just Otakon's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Which I know we know all cons are in a bad spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
COVID has been a pandemic for health and a pandemic for the economy, and it's just, especially cons, which are not grossly profitable ventures on a good day, unless you're
exactly.
you go Comic-Con, in which case I probably imagine you do a little bit better. Some of the giant cons probably do a little bit better, but still probably not a huge amount.
What I think is interesting is that I think the smaller cons are going to survive better than the larger cons, really because of the cost issue. Like anymore, I can see them going, you know what, we're not going to do 2022, but then 2023 will roll around and it'll be fine.
Yeah,
and they can go back up.
Especially,
but Otakon is just such a different animal, and X is such a different animal.
Star City changed hotels every year for 3 years in a row.
Right.
Just bouncing around. So I think that's just a thing. So I think you're absolutely right that gives them a lot more flexibility. Plus the fact that just the con space has changed so much in the past 5-10 years. What people go to cons for is very different than they used to be, and the service you get is just very different.
Galaxy Con that I went to before the pandemic shut everything down. Friend of mine's first large-scale con, and he was so enthralled with the art and vendor area that we spent 90% of the time in there. The other 10% was going to see Shatner.
Okay.
But it's that what was on his radar was, I don't know what a con is, and here are things I can buy, and there's Shatner. And it's he wants to do more to understand what some of the other layout is. So and there's a lot of people I think that go to shop.
Sure, and not to get too far off topic, but I've run into so many people at cons who say things where I mentioned I'm a panelist and oh yeah, I've been coming to this con for a long time. I've been meaning to go to a panel someday.
Right.
Right. There are all these different things that people just have no experience with. Because it's just there's a lot. It's interesting. I don't know. Also this week, just a few other news stories we wanted to cover and talk about, or at least mention, but not necessarily talk about. Bandai Card Division opened a teaser website this week to announce a new arcade card game in the Mobile Suit Gundam series. The website shows an image of a Strike Gundam, along with the silhouette of the arcade cabinet itself, titled Mobile Suit Gundam Arsenal Base. The real-time strategy game, that's interesting, is set to launch in 2021. More information coming in March. Also, the original 1979 Mobile Suit Gundam anime was added to Crunchyroll as of Monday and is now available across the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Publisher Yen Press announced on Wednesday its licensed prolific voice actress Megumi Hayashibara's upcoming memoir, and will release it digitally on February 20th, simultaneous with its Japanese release. Megumi has played iconic characters, including Ranma of Ranma 1/2, Rei Ayanami of Neon Genesis Evangelion, Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop, among many, many others. Her new autobiographical memoir, The Characters Taught Me Everything, Living Life One Episode at a Time, what a great title, provides an in-depth look at her illustrious career and how the very characters she's portrayed have impacted her life on both personal and professional levels. She has an amazing story about voicing Anna from Shaman King, which I wonder might have been an introduction into this book. On Monday, Funimation announced that starting February 3rd, it'll be adding Spanish and Portuguese subtitles and dubs in the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and UK and Ireland. It promises dubs for fan-favorite shows like My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, Tokyo Ghoul, and others, as well as subs for shows like Fruits Basket and Cowboy Bebop. The service expanded to Mexico and Brazil in December, and those regions, of course, already have Spanish and Portuguese subs and dubs. So again, that is Spanish and Portuguese coming to non-Spanish and Portuguese, primarily speaking regions. This week's issue of Weekly Shonen Jump announced that Yuji Kaku's Hell's Paradise Jigokuraku manga is inspiring a TV anime. The announcement came along with the manga's ending this week, which is kind of interesting. The manga tells the story of Gabimaru, once the strongest ninja, who has quit the trade and violated the laws of his village. Due to his superhuman training, however, he inadvertently survives multiple execution attempts and is given a mission to earn his acquittal instead to find the elixir of immortality. Sounds very Shonen Jump.
It does.
Isekai stories with odd premises are nothing new to us by now. This week's newly announced iteration is an anime adaptation of Miku and U35's The Fruit of Evolution. Before I knew it, my life had it made, light novel series. The animal fantasy follows, can you guess? That's right, high school boy, Seiichi Hiragi, who's always at the bottom of the social pecking order. When everyone in his school is transported to another world, he finds himself pursued by an amorous female gorilla. The two of them happen upon the fruit of evolution and undergo a surprising transformation after eating it. Spoiler alert, if you haven't already guessed it, the gorilla turns into a gorgeous girl. Shocking. So we have that to look forward to.
I just love the look on your face, John.
The YouTube channel for Shogakukan's Koro Koro Comics magazine revealed last weekend that the Duel Masters King anime is getting a new series called Duel Masters King, with an exclamation point at the end. Set to premiere sometime in the spring. The theme of the new series is time travel. Bushiroad announced on Thursday that its D4DJ multimedia project is getting a series of anime shorts titled Puchimiku D4DJ Petit Mix. It'll air with the franchise's variety program starting on February 5th and feature cute chibi versions of the members of in-universe groups. Finally, last up this week, another adorable mascot character is getting an anime, Gunma-chan, the Gunma Prefecture's pony regional mascot. The Prefecture's official YouTube channel began streaming a video featuring Gunma-chan along with two native Gunma voice actresses, Aya Ichido and Yui Ogura, where they revealed the upcoming anime. That's all the news for this week. Thanks for watching.
My Little Pony Gunma style.
Where's the Pretty Derby crossover? That's my question.
That's
right?
coming.
Gotta make that work. Do they have horses? Do they have horses in the Pretty Musume universe? I wonder.
No, because all the girls are horses.
Okay, yeah. So there are no like physical.
No, there's not like
horses. Okay, interesting.
That would lead to some very difficult breeding questions that I don't think any of us really want.
I read that manga. Anyway, no.
So you've been to a donkey show, have you? No. What? It's past 10 o'clock?
No, it is past 10 o'clock.
It's past 10 o'clock.
It's past 10 o'clock, absolutely.
The gorilla one. Oh.
Yeah!
Wow. Okay. I'm going to watch it. What do you know?
Right.
If
and again,
it gets to be an anime, I'm going to watch it. But
it's an isekai. It has to have a weird premise.
Yeah, that's an amorous female gorilla. Oh, goodness. I was really hoping that like the next statement was going to be she transforms into a gorgeous girl, other than he finds love in like an unexpected way.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. He turns into a gorilla? I don't know, maybe.
Well, I was worried there wasn't going to be any transformation. That it was just going to be a 16-year-old kid loving a gorilla. Be like, Not sure I'm prepared for this.
Oh.
That story was called Tarzan.
Well, I mean, Ishizoku reviewers arguably, there is one human person in that, and then the places.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's very true.
So that didn't cause me to raise an eyebrow particularly. So
right.
I'm
in fairness, Interspecies Reviewers is a very specific kind of show.
Yeah, that is very true.
Totally, all that stuff.
But this could also be the very specific kind of show.
It's true.
Who knows?
It could.
Let's find out.
Yeah, certainly. Transport to another world, finds gorgeous girl. Definitely sounds like it's not going to be hero saving the world.
No.
Sounds like it's more.
He's saving the gorilla world. I guess.
Who knows?
Fruit of evolution. What really? What kind of convenient plot device is this? What are we doing?
Hey, if you can get pregnant through drinking a potion and having an egg hatch next to you, why not? Whatever.
The fertile minds that come up with these things. I have. I don't want to make any bad jokes.
Yeah.
Anywho, Wondrous Egg Priority. I have not gotten back to watching that.
Yeah.
Brett disappears. Brett's fleeing the show. Nope. Yep. I'm still looking forward to getting back to that because I thought the egg premise and the whole thing still is interesting. So now that we've talked about it.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
For the whole season?
Part of the whole season, but to be able to binge a few episodes at once. I think it's a show that's going to...
I think it's up to 3. I think it was the last...
Yeah, 3 or 4, I think
it's
was
on episode 3.
Yeah, 3. So I think I find... I don't know about you guys. I actually really like mimicking the DVD watching structure. 3 or 4 episodes at a time of an anime.
Yeah.
I find it's a really nice chunk. You get through some plot, things happen, but you're not also sacrificing your entire day to it.
Right.
It seems to work for me. I don't know.
Well, it's also nice that in typically 3 to 4 episodes, you don't have resolution, but you have what I would almost say would be mini steps.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that if one episode only encompasses 3 mini steps, if you could do 3 or 4, you actually are getting enough meat on that you could be okay, I see what you're doing, and now there's this character that's sort of linking in, and I got you.
Yeah.
Versus one at a time where you're okay, next week I have to remember who are you?
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How is that related?
Exactly. I'm seeing some chat active, so I'm going to do something.
All right.
Let me see if I can find the die of genres, the die of anime genres. I think it fell down here somewhere. There it is. 1 second. I'm going down to there it is. I'm going down. So what I have right here. I should switch over to the other camera so folks can actually see what I'm talking about. What I have right here is a 10-sided die with a bunch of anime genres on it.
It's a
It is a and
It's a sling stone for nerds.
Sure, it's that thing. I don't even know anymore. Wow, where did the thing go? I used to have
the list of genres.
A list of genres, and there it is. Cool. So I'm going to roll this die, and in chat, I would like you to guess which of these genres I rolled. It has landed on a genre. It is ready to go. Whoever can guess the genre in the chat room will win these 2 volumes of No Game, No Life. Original light novels.
Yeah, that's a good
available for you. Pristine condition. Excellent condition. Does anyone want to guess which genre I landed on? And I might even be able to give you a hint.
Hentai.
Potentially. There might be a hint at some point.
I guess that all the time.
Yeah. Not on the list, I should point out.
I know.
Hentai is not on the list, but that is okay.
This is a pre-10 o'clock list,
right,
so it's usable in all circumstances.
Well, there's certainly more genres than this in the anime world. But we got to limit it. Got to figure
Isekai Gorilla Love.
Isekai Gorilla Love, yeah, that's not on there. Spider Isekai is not on there.
Oh, that's true too.
Yeah.
Camping isekai? No.
Camping,
Wait a minute. That would probably sports. Would you consider camping sports?
Bear Puppets of Doom?
Close enough.
Bear Puppets of Doom?
Bear Puppets of Doom, yeah.
That's Magical Girl.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty sure.
That's pretty much what she is, isn't she?
Yuna.
Yep. I mean, it's technically isekai, right?
Yeah.
There's some magical girl elements to it. But then I consider Utena to be magical girl, so I'm weird. Anyone want to guess in the chat room? Otherwise, no game, no life will get thrown in the fire.
Yeah, geez.
Yep.
Yeah, because, I mean, Utena has to pull the sword from Anthe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's magical girl.
she's definitely a girl who has a battle of the week, who has a separate life where she is going through battles, and she goes through like a transformation sequence.
Yep. And she has to enter into a special space to do this fighting.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It
I
qualifies, but mecha historical, nope. That we not the ones. Now that you've guessed, you may re-guess if you would like. It is a genre that we have mentioned here on the stream at one point. We've actually mentioned the genre. Yes, that should narrow it down a little bit. We'll see what folks think. But yeah, it's interesting. Because, like, I think we talked about this before. Princess Tutu technically isn't magical girl because she doesn't transform.
Yeah, but she transforms once.
Well, yes, but she does not have a transformation sequence.
Right. I mean, she just the thing happens, and then there you are.
Also, she definitely moves into a fantastical environment in which to do her thing. But also, she doesn't well, I guess you could say like she isn't really engaging with the enemies in the way that they do in a normal Magical Girl series.
Right.
But also, that's pretty vague, right? Like. Some magical girls literally like kick and punch, and others are more just I point my wand at you, yay! Now you're happy. I don't know.
Wedding Peach.
Yeah. I've only seen like bits and pieces of Wedding Peach.
I'm not a magical girl person, so I'm not sure I even know what that is.
It has a I think I used their intro as one of my EMVs once, just as a joke, and it's just it's very just like compact lipstick. That's their magical thing that makes them transform, and then it's the who do we hook up for the week so that they eventually get together and marry or whatever.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any other guesses, or else we're gonna have to close this down. Somebody wants to win it. You can win it.
Come on, one more guess. One more
You
guess.
gotta be in it to win
Have a
it.
guess exactly.
One more
There's
guess.
something out there.
We hear you breathing.
Apparently, No Game No Life has no fans.
I'm
You know?
a fan.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Exactly.
I have to get a better manga reader. I mean, I love my Kindle original Paperwhite, but I just I gotta get something better.
I love that too. I had one of the earlier Kindles.
Yeah,
It's great.
it's just it is the perfect paperback sized thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I may have to actually get the app for my phone and read.
It's not
things on
shonen.
that.
Not shonen. Keep guessing. Someone will get it eventually. Yeah, I use the Kindle app on my phone occasionally, and it's fine. Not great for manga, but
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of concerned about. I watch all Crunchyroll on my phone, and it's not, that's not a problem.
Wow.
It's functional enough. But the manga, I would just envision I'm gonna have to like hold the phone up and then do the increase, increase,
pretty much what you have to
What does
do.
that say?
Yeah, when I was crashing my phone with Manga Fox and not really understanding.
Oh boy.
3 panels crashed.
I wonder if an iPad Mini would be a reasonable size.
Yeah.
Because that's
All right.
about what?
I gotta close this down,
1.5.
everyone. Sorry. So you know what's gonna happen? Oops. That's that.
It's gonna go to the OnCon auction file.
Oh shit! There we go.
Exactly. It'll go in the archive for
Nice.
some other usage at some point.
OnCon, the next OnCon.
Yes, it could well be. At some point, I may have to do something with these. Who knows? Maybe. Granted,
wow,
that's probably gonna fetch a pretty penny at this point, because now that Shaman King's being re-released and all that kind of stuff, this might actually be worth something. So maybe not. Oh well.
Brent's retirement fund.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a different box over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I wonder if I have any manga that's like old
all
enough
the
now. Or,
all
I
the
do.
1979 Gundam
Yeah, exactly.
plastic model kits, unbuilt and not even removed from their thermal shrink. Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Those would be worth some.
I have Buddha and Phoenix manga volumes. Those turned out to be very rare.
Some.
Yeah. There are some volumes of Phoenix that go for over $100.
Yep.
So.
And I bought a couple of mine for 50 cents from the library.
Nice.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well worn or reasonably worn?
Surprisingly new.
Nice.
So nobody just cracked it open.
Right,
and,
yeah.
Like, break the spine on it.
Teeth gritting kind of thing. But no, it's but if it talk about two manga worth reading. Phoenix and Buddha are just amazing.
Oh,
they're truly. Buddha is my favorite of the two. It's probably. I think actually Buddha is probably the first manga that I just sat down and literally just like over the course of like maybe 5 days read the whole thing.
Wow.
It was so good, and then kept rereading it. Going back and back just to, in case I missed something.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting. Very, I was sad about Yada, the character Yada, in there.
Oh yeah.
What happens to him,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not for those out in Chatland. It's not an actual historical perspective of Buddha. It is definitely a manga interpretation of Buddha, but it is used actually to teach about Buddha in certain schools.
Yeah.
But it's just the stories that they show in there and the way that they communicate, Buddhism and how things work and the ideas of it all is just amazing. Like that just that picture alone just should tell you just like the quality of what you're going to be looking at inside of it. Some of it is amazingly detailed and just loving. It's very lovely.
Also should be pointed out, speaking of what we were talking about before, this is set in India,
Right.
where women did not cover their
Right.
pumps.
Oh yeah.
So that's very common throughout there, and there's some child nudity, that kind of stuff, just bathing, that kind of thing. So just again, be aware of that. But this is one of the great works of the comic medium.
Yeah.
Just straight up, like this is in the pantheon with Mouse and all the others. Like this is up there. Oof.
One of those where you take pictures of it specifically, contact your homeowner's insurance and say, this is not just standard property. I need a special rider for that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. I want to talk about anime history for a second. Because there are some things that have happened that we can talk about.
Some.
Yes. Welcome to This Week in Anime History, where I talk about things that happened this week in anime history. Beginning with the birth of Leiji Matsumoto back in January 25th, 1938. He's been around a while and still alive. He is a manga creator responsible for a lot of things. Captain Harlock, Queen Emeraldis, as well as one of the creators of the original space battleship Yamato, which came over as Star Blazers in the U.S. and was one of the things that kickstarted anime fandom over here. But he's also a really interesting guy. He directed Interstellar 4/5's, the story of the Secret Star System, a hour-long animated music video set to Daft Punk's Voyager album. Yep. That is the thing that happened. And he's
see that.
He's amazing. And just a really interesting guy, did a lot of things, and has a whole Leiji-verse worth of manga that he has built, and quite important for that. And
he looks like Che Guevara.
Yeah, and Yamato, very important for the early years of anime fandom, for being one of the first really serious anime series back in the early 70s. Speaking of serious anime in the 70s, a little while later, January 26th, 1980, saw the end run of the original Mobile Suit Gundam series at episode 43. It may seem like an odd number to you, and indeed it was. Gundam was doing so poorly in its time slot that it got canceled. And they were not given their entire run, and they had to sort of tighten up the plot and finish up more quickly than they expected. Which, in retrospect, is probably a good thing, because it's actually a pretty tight final few episodes, and it kind of just runs right up to its ending, which is action epic ending. Despite that, Gundam did fine.
Yeah, it did pretty well.
It did okay.
Yeah.
It did okay.
Things worked out.
I wonder if driving it to an end at 43 helped to stop it at just the point where it whetted the appetite.
Yeah.
That then so if they had run it out to 150 episodes, it would have played itself out. Mm-hmm. But doing it to 43, it's stopping. That people were like,
but I wasn't
driven it.
Actually, I think in some ways the opposite. Because they were planning on doing 50. They were only ever going to do 50.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And because they stopped, if you've ever seen a Tomino show, you know that they can be a little draggy at times. This actually helped to focus them and just do the climax. There aren't a lot of other plot threads going on. So basically they said, okay, no. We have to make sure that these 6 plot threads all get resolved now. So in a sense, it was so condensed and it was so clear that I think a lot of people were like, wow, look at what they did. Right? Like this is really impressive. So when they then came out and did the movies, folks were like, okay, these folks know what they were doing. Which kind of helped a lot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like if you had drug it out,
but you're absolutely right.
It wouldn't have gotten that kind of just kind of wandered out and petered out. It's like, but instead you did it just at the number you needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
To make how many titles?
Yeah.
How many titles?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, didn't Brent you show the list some weeks ago where it was like
it just kept going like number.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just like what the hell?
If I recall correctly, there are 14 Gundam TV series, just like mainline, like Gundam, Gundam C, Gundam 00, Gundam Zeta, all
OVAs, ONAs, movies.
Yeah, it just goes on and on and on.
Has it collectively, over all the years since inception, in the anime format, movie format, ONA, has it collectively earned more than Mugen Train in just 12 months?
Best-selling media franchises. We gotta go to the list. There's a fast-growing media franchise. Gundam is at $21 billion US right now. Wow. Demon Slayer, a paltry 3.8 billion US dollars. Just nothing. Your pocket change. Right there.
And Gundam 79 to now. And now is Mugen Train including like its source material plus movie plus everything else?
Yeah, it's all Demon Slayer.
But
and
still,
when did Demon Slayer pop out? 2017, 16?
16. Yeah, in less than 5 years.
So one series in a movie does 3.9 billion.
Okay. So looking at this page, great example of just blow your mind. Demon Slayer has made slightly less money overall than G.I. Joe. Yeah, which came out in 1967.
Holy crap!
Right, so that's going all the way back to the 12-inch dolls, all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
which is slightly less than Yokai Watch. which started in 2013. Yeah, that
Okay.
that anime series. Demon Slayer made slightly more than the Lego Movie franchise. Just the Lego movies.
Which I'm
We started in
not
2014.
shocked.
Had made $3.57 billion. Which is also slightly more than the Terminator franchise.
Okay.
Wow.
It started in 1984.
Okay.
Which is slightly more than the Skylanders franchise, which is slightly more than Beauty and the Beast.
Okay, well then, yeah, I mean.
So, in other words, Beauty and the Beast, that's 2 movies,
Yeah.
have made $3.38 billion US dollars. Compared to, all this other stuff. It's kind of crazy.
It's a good return on investment.
Yep. They're a little bit more than Les Mis, actually. Les Mis, $3.2 billion US dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
And still playing somewhere around the planet to this day.
Yep. But all of them have made less than the Fate franchise. 4.16 billion US dollars. I'm sorry, other than Gundam
For
is way
Fate.
higher. Yeah. $4.16 billion for Fate.
Really?
Of which $4.028 billion is from their mobile games.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Pay to play must be incredibly profitable for that series.
Yep. Looking for Gundam here real quick. Gundam is slightly underneath Cars, which is slightly underneath Toy Story, and just above the Lord of the Rings Middle Earth, universe.
Wow. Okay.
And Mario. Gundam's bigger than Mario.
Super Mario?
Gundam's bigger than Mario is. By a by a couple $1 billion, actually.
Wow.
Yep. Do y'all remember what the number 1 is? Number 1 highest grossing media franchise? Yep, Pokemon.
Pokemon. It's always Pokemon.
It's always Pokemon.
And if you are a complete Pokemon nerd, has the position been taken yet?
Ooh.
Huh?
Remember the position for Pokemon? Wasn't there a position where you had to master the games and know all the creatures? And,
right.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Haven't heard yet.
Media super nerd. Whatever it is, position.
Probably has.
Their own roomie.
Yeah.
Oh, I imagine the second that went out on the airwaves.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. They probably got flooded with applicants. Hey!
Exactly. Well, I have a question for you all.
What did we learn on the show tonight,
Brent? Perfect.
Again, the tone deaf singer's strength.
Yeah. It's just
Hey, we can do cats.
Hey.
Oh, wow.
Really do better than that.
Let's do Starlight Express.
Ooh, yes.
Solar babies.
Hey.
There you go.
Boy, I'm off. That just completely.
Brent learned that we can say some of the crazy crap ever.
Didn't learn that. Already knew that.
I already knew that. That's a known fact.
Gosh. I learned that there's more to Perfect Blue every time you watch it.
Yeah.
That is a work of art. I also learned that the print business is doing really well. I'd heard good things here and there, but I was like, okay, well, who knows? But yeah, it actually weathered 2020 surprisingly well, which is always good to see. I also learned that when you run something by fans for fans, that has consequences, for better or worse. But yes, that's what I learned. What about you guys?
Steve, hit it. Go ahead.
I've learned that Perfect Blue, after multiple watchings, always has something different, new, exciting, and nightmare fuel for you at night. And it's just Rumi is a person you don't want in your head.
No.
That's what I'm going to say right now. So I've learned that waking up drenched in sweat and going, she's in the closet. That's probably not a good thing to do. So just want to ease up.
As long as you stay doing what you're supposed to be
doing,
like she wants, you're fine.
I'll stay in idle, I swear. I learned that Mugen Train is literally going to rule the world, and I somehow need to get on the approved list for the Pachinko Paro, the Pachinko game, and get it set up here, right next to the Horseshoe Casino in downtown Baltimore, right past the stadiums, and fleece the people.
Katsucon's right next to a casino. There you go.
Fleece the people.
Fleece the people.
Nice.
And lastly, I learned that Otakon is very dear to my heart.
Yeah.
And I know the messaging was less than perfect, but if you all want to go out there to Amazon Smile, go to the website or whatever, and throw them some money your way, knowing that you're never going to get it back. Understand that.
You get it back in joy, Steve.
Enjoy. Think of it as an investment in a con of the future. But seriously, Otacon's a good thing. Let's try and help them out a little bit. And if not, you know what? There is always the successful on-con.
Yes. On-con will be the answer. The future of cons is on-con. I learned that Satoshi Kon has just some beautiful work. Work. That was good fun. Apparently, gorilla love is a thing.
I read that.
Those two are not connected, but who knows?
One of these days you're gonna get it. Oh my god, that else came out.
You're gonna spit take it all over everywhere. And that the wonderful medium of anime provides such great fuel for cons. It provides such great fuel for entertainment. Sometimes it provides some questionable entertainment that you have to be a little more aware of, cautious of. Consume it with the best mind that you have to not let it do some weird stuff to you. Yep. That works for Perfect Blue just as easily.
Exactly. Yes. Totally. Cool. Dreaming Machine. I don't know what Dreaming Machine is. I'm curious. Is that the Satoshi Kon's final movie? Is that what that was? Kon had a movie in pre-production when he passed. And Madhouse said that they were going to try to produce it, but it never came to light. Because they couldn't find a director who would take it on. No one was like, or everyone was like.
So they had it complete, like, screenwriting and storyboarded. They had an idea how to do it. They just needed a director. That was it.
Well, they didn't just need a director, but they had enough to where they could progress. They had some animatics, I think. They were up to that point. I think it was storyboarded with some initial animation done. And just everyone that they approach was just like, I don't know, man. Like I can't fill those shoes. Like I just can't get into that head.
That would be rough.
I can't do it. Either, I can't grasp this well enough to execute on this vision, or I don't want people to say, is he really the next Satoshi Kon? I don't want to invite that.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah, but that means that we're all now not having that.
Right. Yeah.
I get you don't want to be the captain of the ship when it goes down, but you're denying all the rest of us that could be something amazing.
Maybe if we, provided the choice in such a term of, here's your choice of anime. If you really want it made, if you really want this, we can either go with creating this, the last masterpiece of Satoshi Kon, understanding that it's not Satoshi Kon, or we could somehow make a complete multi-series, multi-movie franchise out of Gorilla Love.
It's a tough choice. Boy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If we can present the choices,
one has an
that.
homage to Satoshi Kon, and the other one has Gorilla Love.
Right. Yeah.
Like, is there a way to do both?
I'm betting.
What?
There's
Gorilla
some...
Satoshi Kon Love.
Yep. There's
Sells
got to
itself.
be something somewhere in one of those works.
There's a doujinshi out there that right now does exactly that.
Yep.
Either that, or we have inadvertently made someone go, "Oh,
There should be a doujinshi of that.
and you will be at fault."
Perfect blue Gorilla Love.
I think I told you guys off stream about a okay, no, I'm not going to mention it. Thank you, everyone. Yes. Oh, well, yeah. Anyway. I think I did. Thank you all so much. This has been a lot of fun. We're going to end it there. We are going to be back next week. Talk about Princess Mononoke, the great Hayao Miyazaki film. I suspect that's also going to take us a while.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about there.
Sure, it won't be just a short run through. 15 minutes. Hey.
Probably not 15 minutes. Boy, I have thoughts. Thank you all. Have a great one. Until next time, watch more anime.
Jane, oyasumi nasai. And there's the Baron. Yoink.